Yeah, your integrity is everything. Your name is everything. So saying no is one of the most powerful things that you can know how to do.
Yeah.
Whenever people start talking urgency with real estate, there's a lot of opportunity there. The answer to every question you don't ask is always no.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to lose?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Nothing Fancy. My name is Kevin Salinas, and I'm here with Devon Shumaker, good friend of mine. Been here. This is our third time doing an episode. I don't know if I said this on the second episode, but the first one we did completely, we bombed it. It was a great idea. Like we were
The
just
learning
saying.
experience.
Exactly. But how you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
Good. I'm doing even better because we're here having a beer. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So we're having some beers, just fucking kicking the shit, here.
Relaxing.
Exactly.
Relaxing. We're both getting ready to go into our busy seasons here. So taking advantage of, a little bit of downtime, so to speak, before things get super chaotic, right?
Exactly. Did you have good year last year?
Yeah, man. Last year was a very, very good year, numbers wise, but really the one thing that stood out about last year was it was smooth. We didn't have turnover of employees. We didn't run into like any critical issues or anything like that. I mean, all in all, it was a year that if it can be replicated this year, I'd be over the moon with, man. Like I said, it was just smooth, which I love.
Was it better than the previous year? Or
I mean, we always tend to grow year over year.
Yeah.
I don't think, honestly, this will be year 11 that I'll have this entity open. And since I opened this entity, I haven't had a year that we haven't increased sales from the previous year. A big focus is, which it always is with business, but right now is just, fine tuning the machine, right?
Yeah.
I'm not looking to be the biggest in town by any means. We just want to run very efficiently, profitable, and, provide the highest quality service to our customers we can. So,
yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm kind of at that point where it's like, for us, we try to shoot over a certain minimum each year.
mm-hmm.
And thankfully we have the last 3 years. And so, in roofing and siding and all that, space is a little different. But I've kind of set ourselves up like to a point where we're like, look, if we do over this every year, it's like a win.
Right.
Right. And there's years where we've done a little bit, we've always hit that goal, but not, less than the previous year.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like we don't.
Well, I mean, and you've got that overachiever mentality where, you set a goal, you crush it, and then you kind of want to bump it up a little bit. But I mean, as you know, and I'm sure you've seen over your years of business scaling how you have is, bigger isn't always better, right? Margins get tighter, overhead gets higher, problems get bigger. So that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, we reached a point probably 5 years ago where we were really getting, what I would consider large. And it was killing me, man. I mean, it was just burning me out, to no end. So we pulled back, we scaled back, a little bit, adjusted pricing and whatnot to make that pullback make sense. And looking back at it now, it's been one of the best moves I think that I've done in business, and certainly in my personal life, right? I've got a 2-year-old, almost 2.5-year-old. I'm married, so my goals that I had, 5 years ago are a lot different than what I've got, today. And I'm sure you can attest to that too.
Oh yeah. Yep. Goals change, man.
Mm-hmm.
Goals change, either because you hit them or just because they just change.
Yeah. I mean, your life changes. We're always in different phases of our lives. So what was important to us when we were 20 might not be important to us when we're 30 or when we're going to be 40 or 50. So life is like business in the sense of adapting, to the change, and welcoming it, because I do believe if you stay stagnant, for too long, especially personalities like ours, it's not always the best for us. So it's good to, keep changing, keep moving, keep growing. So it's exciting. I mean, I'm really looking forward to, I've got a solid core team in place. So, it's really focusing more in on rewarding those individuals who have, been with me for a long period of time and helped build us up, to where we are right now. So.
Right. So hopefully, you're going to have an amazing 2026.
Yeah, man. Fingers crossed, right? I mean, we'll do with it what we can and, make the most out of it.
Before we wrapped up our last episode, I asked you, what's something that we didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about on our next episode, and you were like, one of those things is money. But before we start tapping into that topic, one of the things I also realized is we never really talked about your automotive business.
Yeah.
And we never really tapped into your like commercial space either. And we don't have to tap into it too much. But I am curious as to how you got into both of those, whether it's the automotive or real estate.
Yeah, so the automotive, a little over 3 years ago or so, I brought on. He's actually my uncle, killer mechanic, 30 plus years of experience. Brought him in initially to help out with the landscape space. So I needed at that time someone reliable that I could, count on, that I knew was going to show up every day. I didn't have to babysit, so on and so forth. But with him coming on, brought obviously his experience with automotive. So it started out as him maintaining, my fleet, my equipment. We've got, I don't know, maybe about a dozen trucks and, tons of different mowers and small equipment and things of that nature. So when he came on, that was an added bonus. I'm not anymore, farming that work out. It's getting done in-house, which obviously is significantly more cost-effective, right, to the business to have somebody in-house doing it. With that, like I said, he's been doing it 30-plus years. So he has, gathered a number of clients who have always brought their vehicles to him, no matter where he is or where he goes. So then he came over, we put a lift in the shop, and it's like, okay, you'll work on our stuff. And then, if Susie calls and needs an oil change or needs brakes or, whatever, you can service it in here, and then that kind of grew where I was like, oh, I got some clients or I've got some friends, and it kind of just
it kind of snowballed into, yeah.
So then, last year officially was our first full year in business for the automotive.
As like an LLC.
As an established LLC. Yeah. Previously, I was running it kind of underneath the landscape business and whatnot, just to kind of see if it had any traction.
Right.
Well, it turns out it has, and I mean, he stays extremely busy with customer cars, fleets, right? We take care of, your guys' fleet, several other local companies. So basically, our edge is we're able to come in a lot more competitive than majority of our competition that's solely in the automotive space.
Yeah.
Because all the overhead as far as the building, the salary, all that, excluding, let's say, parts, is covered by my other entity. The landscape business already was housed there. It's already been covering the expenses. He was brought in to take care of the landscape business. So he's salaried through there. So our overhead is significantly lower than a lot of these other businesses are. And we're not looking to get over on individuals that are coming in. He's extremely honest and trustworthy. If you bring a vehicle in, I won't list any, competition or anything like that, but we have vehicles routinely come in from competitors where they say that a number of things need done that don't need done. And it's sad to see, because a lot of the people that are getting taken advantage of are, older people, maybe women, people who don't aren't necessarily mechanically inclined, where if I told you, hey, Kevin, you know, you need a transmission flush, you need front brakes, you need rear brakes, you need the tie rod, you need a ball joint, you're going to look at me and be like, if you trust me, like, okay, yeah, absolutely, that needs done. But like, chances are you don't know if that needs done or even where that stuff's located on the vehicle, right? So it's a space that people are very, very easily taken advantage of. And we're coming at it as an angle of, look, we're going to be fast, friendly, and fair with you. You know, stay with us and let's get your business. The automotive is a supplemental business. It's not, you know, what we're looking to get rich and retire on, right? It's very effective. And if I can keep him in there and busy and we can make a couple bucks and simultaneously keep my fleet maintained, it's a no-brainer. So that's kind of how that developed out.
I think that's a really just cool idea because, like, you know, I've met, it seems like entrepreneurs have a lot of things that are very similar. And that's one of them, where they have like their main bread and butter business. And off of that business, other little businesses kind of like,
I have something that pops into mind. So it's like you doing roofing and then opening up like a dumpster.
Exactly.
Business. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, but it's like all of these little businesses just kind of like
complement each other.
And I think that's what like makes a great entrepreneur, is like thinking outside the box. Like
always.
That,
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You gotta, and this goes back to what we started off with by saying, you know, always looking for different things, opportunities, changing, you know, like, you know, 3 years ago, and if you would have told me 3 years ago before he had started or was recruited in that I would be looking at an automotive shop, I would say you're out of your mind. Like, what are you talking about? You know, but you're constantly adapting to changes, you know, and making the most out of them. And that's where we're at with that. And it's turned out to be, you know, a really, really nice, I can't call it a side hustle anymore. It's a, you know, legitimate business.
Yeah. And that's what's cool. And, you know, that's what's cool. Like, you know, same thing we were just talking about, goals change, you know, cause like you said, 3 years ago, if you would have asked me if I would have ever thought about a dumpster company.
Yeah.
No.
Why mess with it?
Exactly. Right. You know, in the beginning, it seems like a headache, but then some way along the way, it like makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's like getting the wheels rolling and, you know, the gears turning, I should say, and certain things click, right? And they really, you know, make sense. And it's rewarding too, because like I said, you know, we have obtained so many customers just in the last 12 months who are like, I will never take my vehicle anywhere. Like, I took it here. They said I needed this, that, and the other thing. And you guys said, no, you know, actually you don't need that. You know, and they're like flabbergasted to hear that, you know, that we're not trying to upsell them on something silly that they don't need.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's because once again, it's not your bread and butter; it's the other people's bread and butter. So maybe they're trying to see.
And absolutely, if that was our sole business, yes, we're going to be, you know, obviously pushing sales. You know, I still like to think that you have to have a conscience behind it, right?
Integrity,
like, you know, your integrity is everything. Your name is everything. So, you know, but you definitely would have a different approach to it, and I think we're able to be a lot more laxed, you know, with pricing and everything, you know, due to that not being our, you know, one and only source of income coming in there.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's very cool that, you know, you're getting it, and honestly, you help us out a shit ton.
Well, hey, it's shout out to the man, you know. Like I said, I help facilitate things from an office standpoint, but I certainly can't take any credit there.
And last time we talked, we tapped a little bit into your real estate, and I think maybe that might have been the first ever episode that we talked about real estate. I know we've talked about real estate before. Yeah. I'm not sure if we talked about it last time or not, but how'd you get into the real estate?
So I've just like always loved the idea of real estate. You know, growing up, one of my best friends, his dad is a very successful, you know, real estate guy. And I think I always admired that. And I recognized early on the tools, the leverage, the wealth that can be, established through real estate. And, we'll get into different types of investing here today and whatnot. But the one thing I really like about real estate is it's a tangible asset that you can physically touch, right? You can have a stock account and you log into your computer and your computer says you have X dollars, but you can't physically reach out and grab it, right? Or at least not easily. Whereas real estate, you can drive by it, you can look at it, and you can see it, and you can touch it. So I've always been drawn to real estate, and, honestly, it's like, it probably is my number one passion. It's something I'm just now, more or less getting into. But it's something that I plan to really, really dive into heavily. It's not for everybody, right? The naysayers will say, you don't want to be a landlord, the headaches, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. Well, the headaches that's involved with being a landlord versus the headaches that you and I deal with on a daily basis are so minuscule.
Right.
I'm not phased if I get a call at 10 p.m. that your furnace went out or your hot water tank went out or a pipe's blown. Like, okay, that's the issue. Now we solve it. Like, that's pretty black and white to me.
Right.
And it doesn't really phase me, whereas other individuals who might not be as exposed to risk and stuff, that might seem like really overwhelming. And to me, it doesn't. So that the downside of real estate is something that doesn't really phase me, being the landlord. Now, granted, you can have a property management company or something take care of those headaches, for a fee. And I'm sure as my portfolio grows, I will go more towards that direction or hire accordingly, to handle it in-house. But to backtrack, basically, it started, how it would for most individuals. I bought a single family home, in 20...
For yourself or just
for myself.
To rent?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I was renting. So I moved out and I was renting. And I remember every month that I wrote that check out and gave it to the apartment complex, it was like a dagger to the heart. It's like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I was smart enough then, right? But I just didn't find the right deal, or, I just wasn't in the position at that time to jump on a house. Well, quite honestly, I thought I was going to time the market out, which is funny. People say, oh, well, there's going to be a crash coming. I'm going to buy when it dips. Yeah. And I thought that. And, we're talking I think this was like 2018. I'm like, man, the market's so high, maybe 17. So high, it's got to come down. It's got to come down. It's got to come down. I kept telling myself that. And then finally, I remember I was in my apartment, and at that time, my office was in my apartment as well. And I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, I just need to get my feet wet, right?
You were telling yourself, it's going to come. I'm going
to have this miraculous opportunity, right? I'm going to just find this house for $50,000 that's worth $200,000. Like, what am I expecting? So I kept waiting, and I really washed away a couple years there, paying my landlord. And eventually, I got into my first house. Shout out actually to my grandparents. At that time, I was still young. I think I was maybe 20, 21, something like that. Didn't have a ton of established credit. Business was still, pretty new and stuff. So they actually co-signed for me to get my first house. And for that, I will forever be indebted to them for that. I greatly, greatly appreciate that opportunity, which is something that not everyone would get. And I recognize that. They co-signed. They didn't put any money down or anything. They just co-signed, but they're writing their name on that note. Yep. And I got in to my first house, and then, it was a small little 1,100 square foot house in Sylvania, 2-bedroom, 1 bath. And I actually lived in that house up until 8 months ago. I stayed grounded, and I was buying other real estate. I mean, I was spending, $500,000 on other real estate instead of spending $500,000 on myself to go get a bigger house or something like that. We just fortunately are blessed enough to have upgraded our home, but started with that, and then we can dive into this a little bit later, but then opportunities, I'm always looking, right? I'm always asking. So, there's a house across the street, from me, and a for rent sign came in the yard. Well, obviously, I knew right when it hit the turf because I lived across the street. Boom, on the phone with the guy. Hey, figuring out what's going on with your property, not interested in renting, you interested in selling it. Turns out he had a really bad renter experience previous. So this kind of motivated, I felt that out, that he's motivated maybe to kind of unload.
Yeah.
I negotiated a tremendous deal. Fabulous deal to buy that property, and I did. And then COVID hit, and I so that was my first kind of property outside of my investment or outside of my primary residence. COVID hit. I got a little nervous. I had the chance to unload the place. I think I had it I didn't even have it for 3 months. I bought it, did some minor stuff, dumped like 10 grand into it. Made like 60,000 off of it in 3 months. Yeah. I mean, it was a good opportunity, right, to sell. But little did I know, looking back at it, I wish I would have held that, but whatever. You can't be mad about making money. So sold that. Then later on, I was looking for years for a shop. I found a shop that was for lease. It wasn't for sale. Shout out to one of my brokers. He walked me through it and said, look, dude, I think if we come in with a competitive offer here, we might get him to sell the place. Sure enough, we did. So that was number 2.
And that's where you're at now.
Yep, that's my business that I'm at now. I also bought another house next door to my other house. That was a deal that was under works for quite some time. And then I also bought the shop next to my shop, but none of these deals were for sale signs in front yards. They were all off market deals. They were all deals that most people would have missed out on. But I was always like asking and prying, even if it was uncomfortable, to do. Like my neighbor, the one house I bought next to me, I was like, hey, look, she was thinking about maybe moving to Florida. So I was just adamant on staying on it. Like, hey, look, if the time comes, let's talk.
Yeah.
We talked, we made something happen. The shop next to my shop, same thing. I knew the owner of the property, and I told him, I was always nagging him. You ever sell this? Give me a call. You ever sell this? You give me a call. Well, one day, completely unexpectedly, knock on the door. Hey, you give me this, I'll walk. Done deal. Well, I'll do one more crazy story on real estate, and then we can kind of, go a different direction. But my latest deal that I got, we were out plowing snow. We got dumped on, 10-inch snowstorm, right? We're out plowing snow. One of my trucks is across the street from a building. The guy sees my truck out there plowing, takes the number off of the truck, calls. I, for some reason, answer in the middle of a blizzard. Yo, hello, hey, hey, I just seen one of your trucks plowing the parking lot across the street from my business. Just wondering if you'd be interested in giving me a quote. Okay, yeah, what business, this, that, and the other thing. I start putting feelers out and whatnot. Well, the gentleman kept circling back to that, just so you know, this might not be a long-term contract because I just inherited the building and I'm looking to get rid of it. Light bulb.
Yeah, right.
I'm plowing snow, dude. I'm hitting the controller, steering wheel. I'm in the middle of a freaking snowstorm. And I just start grilling this guy with questions. And finally, he cuts me off and he goes, well, it sounds like you might be interested in buying the building. And I said, well, potentially, right? I like what I'm hearing so far. If we, let me look at it.
Yeah.
So I finished my snowstorm, I don't know, 16, 17-hour shift or whatever. Drive over, meet him over at the property, walk through it. Like what I see, start feeling him out. Next morning, send him an offer. Negotiate back and forth. 21 days later, I got the keys to the building. All off of that. That now, see, most people, when they got that phone call, would have either A, not answered it, or B, said, okay, you want a quote for snow? They would have went over there, looked at the snow, and they would have been looking at the small game. The $1,200, $2,000 they can maybe make off of him that winter. I seen like instantly right when he started talking urgency. Whenever people start talking urgency with real estate, there's a lot of opportunity there. So I seen it and I jumped in and I was aggressive, right? And was able to swoop that up. So
that's a badass story, and that's one of the things I'm actually trying to get better at myself. Is like answering my phone more, because sometimes I tend to not that I do it on purpose. You're just busy, you're doing something or whatever, and then you're on another call, and I was watching this thing that said what's his name, Fernandez Mendoza or whatever. How he called Georgia and like Georgia State or whatever, and then the coach didn't answer, and so then he went to Indiana. And I don't know if you saw that.
Missed opportunity.
And I was like, damn, like, that's true. Like, one phone call just like that.
You never know the opportunity, whether it be through the phone or walking by someone on a sidewalk or whatnot. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not great at answering my phone. I was way better at answering my phone pre-wife and child than I am now.
Yeah.
Like, now I have a priority. Like, now normally at a certain hour, like, unless it's a recognized number, I'm not answering it.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't want it to seem like you have to answer every call, but you never know the opportunity that could be lying on the other end, whether it be real estate, whether it be the next huge roof, the next giant landscape job, whatever the case may be. But, it certainly doesn't, hurt to open your ears whenever possible and try to seek opportunity. And I forget who told me this, but, the one thing that sticks in my head is the answer to every question you don't ask is always no.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Like, what if you don't ask, it's a no already.
Exactly.
So if I go bang on your door and say, hey, look, I want to buy your house for X, and you tell me no, okay, I didn't lose anything.
Right.
I would have had the same result if I didn't bang on your door. But if I bang on 100 doors and I get one person that says yes, boom, there it is. You know what I mean? So, like, you never know what the opportunity could be by just asking questions. And I'm big on asking questions, especially people that are above me. I'll grill them. I just want to, why is this? Why do you do that? I want to know as much as I can know, so that way I can learn from their experience, the same way that you have this podcast structured. It's so other people can learn off of other people's life stories.
Exactly.
And save that time and trial.
I'm a big fan of that too, because like I feel like there's no stupid question.
No.
At all. And like, we walk into all of these rooms where people are talking about all of these things, and if I don't know what the heck they're talking about, I tell them, hey, okay, first of all, what the hell are we talking about?
Yeah, fill me in. Fill me in.
Like, but what's interesting is, like, people who are like, if you're talking, people in tuxedos and all this shit, suits and all, they appreciate that. They like people who are like straight up to the point, like, and not like bullshitting, wasting time. And I'm
absolutely. And like, the other thing is too, like, I'm big on not judging a book by its cover. Like, I don't care if you look like or not. Like, you can typically kind of feel things out, but like you just said, like the guy in the suit or whatever, like, I'm not afraid to ask the farmer in the bib overalls, because chances are, he might know a lot or have a lot more. It's not always what you see, right?
Exactly.
It's like an onion. There's layers behind everything. But no, I'm a firm believer in asking. It doesn't do, and who cares if it is a dumb question? I look stupid. Like, I don't really care.
So before we tap into talking about money, what would you tell someone that's in your position that you were, say, 10 or 12 years ago, where you're like, oh, I'm waiting for a dip, I'm waiting for the right opportunity, the golden chance, the golden ticket to come through? Like, what would you tell them? What advice would you give them?
No, that's a great question. And I'm going to say time beats timing. Okay, and what I mean by that is time in the market will always beat timing in the market. If you're waiting for that opportunity, it may never come. Let's look at me back in 2017, 2018. I was waiting for a dip. What happened in 2019 and 2020?
Didn't it, like, fucking
COVID. And who would have thought that COVID would make real estate double?
Right.
Literally double. If you held something pre-2019 and you hold it today, chances are it is worth double.
Yeah.
Literally double what it was pre-COVID. Now, you would never guess that. Even if I told you, Kevin, the world's going to be shut down. We are going to wear masks. We are going to have, we will see something we'll never see. You would go, that's the real estate dip I'm waiting for, right? Because that would make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
No, it's the complete opposite. Supply and demand, and real estate boomed. So my advice is get in now, okay? Don't wait till tomorrow. Don't wait for the perfect house with the white picket fence. If you can get into something that has decent bones in a decent area, that fits within your budget, you need to do it now, okay? Because you got to just get your feet wet with it, and not sit back thinking woulda, coulda, shoulda. If I would have waited for a market dip, my house that I bought for $94,900 in 2018 would have been $275,000 today. Who's the idiot then, right? So you just got to get in. If you can afford it and recognize that you might not be, I think a lot of people get stuck on buying their dream home, right? It's your first home.
Exactly.
It just needs to be a place to lay your head down at, and like I said, in a decent area, with a decent school system, and you will not lose. So, get in as soon as possible. There's tons of different programs and opportunities for first-time home buyers where you can get away with a little to no down payment.
Yeah.
So just recognize, if your budget's $200,000 and you wanted to be in Sylvania and Perrysburg, okay, maybe that's not going to happen. But maybe we can find a nice neighborhood in West Toledo, Washington local or something like that for $175, and now we're at least in.
Yeah, and now you got 25 G's extra.
Yeah, and now you can build a little equity, and the time will always provide you, more value with real estate. It might go up, it might go down, but with time, you'll eventually come out ahead. So in 5 years, you might now have, $100,000 in equity in the property. Who knows? And now you can do your little upgrade.
Going back to your story of your recent purchase, so you were talking to this guy he inherited this building. He's gonna sell it, and you offered him a price. You sent him an offer. You looked at the building. So when you sent him an offer, did you involve your realtor? Did you involve your lawyer?
That's a good question.
How did that process? For someone out there that's like, hey, I got this off-market deal. How do they not get screwed over?
Yeah, so I would say, if you don't know anything about real estate, it's not a bad idea at all to get a realtor involved, okay? Yes, it's going to limit maybe a little bit of your negotiations, because that's one of my negotiating factors. I don't use a realtor, for majority of my deals, so there's no commission to be paid out.
Right.
So I can come at them right away and say, look, here's 7%, between buyer-seller party that would have been wiped off the table for you. We're eliminating that right now by not having any realtors involved.
Got you.
If you feel confident, you can go at it that angle. It is risky, right? You need to know what you're doing, and thank God with the internet, you can do a lot of research that way. I do think if you're not having a realtor involved, you certainly need to have a lawyer involved, an attorney involved.
Yep.
I always have an attorney involved with every one of my real estate deals, so that way we're making sure the deed's proper, making sure there's no liens on properties, back taxes. We're making sure that there's nothing, undiscovered, so to speak.
What about inspections, appraisals? Do you go through that whole process, or do you, or does it depend on the deal?
It depends on the deal. So a lot of times I will waive inspection, and people go, "You're crazy." Well, I have maybe something in my back pocket that not everyone else does. I know quite a bit. Okay, so I'm able to walk through a property and see red flags pretty quick.
Yeah.
B, I know people that I can call on to walk through it with me that can point out stuff that even I don't know.
Okay.
Which a seller loves to hear no inspection. They hear no inspection, they're because what happens when you get an inspection done? A traditional inspection, they're going to come in. If there's flaked paint, they're going to mark it down. Yeah. I mean, literally, if a light bulb's burned
Sometimes
out.
inspections.
It's Italy, which is good because that's helping do the due diligence, right? But if you're not so much worried about that, I'm able to come in on deals no inspection. Now, granted, I'll say no inspection, but 7-day, 14-day, whatever terms I want to decide. Like on this deal, I did a 14-day window to walk through the property with somebody of my choosing. What does that mean?
Right.
That means inspection.
Right.
I just didn't write inspection.
Exactly.
So I walked through the property, and on that deal in particular, and you know this too because you're coming in on it to help me out. You know, flat roof. Flat roof was in terrible shape. You know, I had somebody. I knew it was old. I knew it needed work, but I had somebody come out and walk through it with me, and he's like, "Dude, this is a today problem, not a year down the road, 5-year down the road." So we already had agreed on terms and pricing. I then came back to him and said, "Look, this is how much my flat roof's going to cost to put on this building.
Yeah.
I don't care who you bring through here. They're all going to say the same thing. It needs a flat roof.
Yeah.
You've got a deal in front of you. Let's knock another, $50,000 off of this thing and, break bread and move forward and be done with it."
Yeah.
And luckily we were able to make that happen. So I do think for the first time home buyer who doesn't know a lot about real estate, doesn't know a lot about handyman stuff, I do think you probably should go more traditional your first deal. Realtor, inspection. If you're dealing with a bank, you're going to need an appraisal. That's not a bad thing. Once you get your feet wet and if you start to meet the right people that can help you out with maybe stuff you don't know, then you can get a little bit more creative.
Right.
And that's how I've won all the deals that I've won. When you're able to come in cash, all cash, no inspections, close within 30 days, cover their closing cost, no realtor fees, there's a lot.
That's a sweet deal.
It looks good for both parties.
And I think, you can do that because you assess the risk. You know what you're willing to lose if this deal went south. And at the same time, you also look at what you know.
Yeah, well,
so you have, these three, and I'm sure there's a lot more, but you're like, okay, what's the risk of, say, no inspection, right? Okay, if something goes south, how much do I gotta come out
what
of
am
pocket?
I looking out of pocket?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then on the other end is, what do you literally know that you're like, okay, this is bad. I can take a picture, send it to my friend, and he thinks this needs fixed.
Well, so, and I mean, another part is too, I don't need to close the deal, right? Saying no is one of the most powerful things that you can know how to do.
Yeah.
So that property that this one that we're just talking about right now that came through the snowstorm, when I woke up that morning, I woke up to plow snow. I didn't wake up thinking anything about a real estate deal. So if that deal went south and it wasn't good and the numbers didn't make sense for me, and it was a no, then it's a no. We'll just keep our eyes open, for the next one. So, I'm not pressed. And a lot of people, I feel like, especially the market's kind of cooled off a little bit in this aspect, but post-COVID, it was so hard to buy anything because it was like bidding wars, so a house would go up for $200,000. You'd have 20 people see it in 2 days. You'd have 10 offers above asking. 5 of them are all cash with no inspection. People are feeling like they have to throw it all.
People were just dropping their pants.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think now is getting to be a good time where you can be a little bit more competitive with your offer. But, the moral of the story is if you're interested in being in real estate or owning your own home, the time is now, right? Just if you can get approved and you can get something, that has decent bones, just get it, right? And then you can be in that home paying your note down, not somebody else's. You're not your landlord's down, and recognize that, okay, now I'm not pressed for a property. I can still keep looking. Oh, wait, this looks like a good opportunity. Let me throw an offer in on this. Oh, they didn't take it? Oh, well, I still go back to my home. They did take it? Great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it relieves a lot of that pressure. And, real estate isn't for everybody. I mean, there's plenty of people who, if you don't want to fix anything, if you don't want to deal with headaches on your own, and all that stuff, then just rent. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that if you recognize that. Being a homeowner isn't for everybody. Being a landlord certainly isn't, for everybody. But for the individuals that do like the idea of it, it's a very lucrative space that if you can get in on, you know, and spend the time to find the deals, you can do really well.
Money.
Yeah.
Credit.
Yeah.
What's credit?
Credit. Yeah. So,
I grew up having a horrible credit.
yeah. And I'll be honest with you, man. I feel like credit's like really blown out of proportion. People, I think, really do take it a little bit too serious. Obviously, you need credit to buy a house. You're going to need credit to buy a car or whatever. But like, people are so worried about like having like a perfect credit score than they are, you know, all that a good credit score means is that you're good at taking on debt and paying it off.
Yeah.
You know, but you're good at taking debt. Like, is that necessarily a good thing? I mean, there's good debt and there's bad debt. If you're taking on good debt, then that's no problem. If you're taking on credit card debt, you know, vehicle that you don't need, you know, buy here, pay here loans or whatever, you know, that's bad debt. So separating the two is very important. And I think if you have an understanding for good debt versus bad debt, then you can establish decent credit. You know,
really quick. Sorry to interrupt you. Okay, a car, vehicle, good debt or bad debt?
Bad debt.
A house,
good debt.
Okay.
Yeah. You're talking.
You can even do clothing, I guess now. Like you can buy clothing.
I
That's
mean,
probably a bad debt.
You're talking assets versus liabilities. You buy a house for $100,000 and hold on to it for 10 years. Are the odds better or worse that it's going to be worth more than $100,000?
Probably better.
Exactly. If you buy a 2025 Escalade, in 10 years, are the odds better or worse that it's going to be worth less than what you bought it for? They're definitely going to be worth less. Going to be worth less. So that's bad, right? That's a liability. Assets are going to make you money, bring you money. Liabilities are going to cost you money. You know, so, you know, and like I said, recognizing that early on is extremely important, the difference between the two. You know, people think, and not to cut you off, people think sometimes that a car is good debt because they're like, oh, well, when it's paid off, I got a car that I can sell, you know, for $20,000. Okay, cool. What did you buy it for? You bought it for $80,000. Okay, so you lost $60,000. Like, where's the common sense in that?
And then the full coverage.
Yeah.
Full coverage.
Yeah, maintenance.
You know, full coverage.
Everything.
You know, yeah. So it's what about if someone was to say, hey, I'm gonna get a truck, right, to start a business.
Yeah, I would say buy a piece of shit.
Okay.
That runs, and if you got to throw some money into it, throw some money into it. I mean, I don't know how you started, but like my first truck, Hoopty, it was a 97. That would have been in like 2012, you know, so we're talking 15-year-old vehicle. I ran that thing for a couple years till I blew the transmission out and it didn't make sense to replace. But like, you know, everyone wants to start out with the latest, the greatest, the best of the best. I'm the complete opposite.
Yeah.
If you can't pay cash for it, you can't afford it. You know, and you might not be able to do that in all circumstances. But like if you're starting, you know, Selena's roofing today, you know, starting over from ground zero, are you going to make more money driving a 6-figure pickup truck to the job or a $2,000 pickup truck to the job?
Vehicle?
You're going to, well, technically you're not going to make any more, you know, you know, from one than the other, as long as it can get A to B. And okay, who cares? You got to put $1,000 into it. Okay, you're $3,000 into it, not 100. Like, you know, it's so much easier to get out ahead if you can limit your expenses early on. So especially for starting a business, do the absolute bare bones minimum that you need to, you know, as far as that initial investment, whether it be equipment or trucks or whatever, to just make sure that it's even logical, right? Who knows? You might go out and do it for 2 months and go, I hate roofing. I would never want to do this. And now you're stuck with a $100,000 truck. You know what I mean?
So, a payment or whatever.
Yeah. So
I started out with I actually started out with a little $4,000. It was a golden truck. I wish I had it, honestly. I miss it. It's like just a little.
It's a momentum now.
I know. I know. It's like I have it in pictures, but I'm like, man, I wish I would have never gotten rid of that truck because it's now
and look at where it got you.
I'm like that's what I started out with. You know, a little golden 1500.
Yeah, you built your business, you built your name, you've built a good income. Now let's go dabble in a nice vehicle. All right, now it makes sense. You know.
But you know, even now with like, for example, for like my sales guys, like I have a couple of dealerships that I deal with, and I always tell them, okay, hey, you know, when it's time to buy a new truck, you know, this is my budget. I'm not like, hey, we're going all out, $60,000 truck.
You're not
from
buying
this.
a Lariat, you know,
Yeah.
fully loaded.
I'm like, look, I just need it to be a Ford, because that's how our truck's Ford, black Ford,
Presentable.
and presentable, exactly.
Yeah.
Over 2017 and higher or whatever, newer, and no more than $20,000.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and
there's plenty of options out there.
and find me one, and you got a customer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm not like,
And you know, the other end of the spectrum is too, which I know people are going to think is like, it's all about at first impression, which, you know, I roll up to your house to bid whatever, a roof, and I got a hoopty, okay? And then you roll up after me and you got $100,000 beautiful truck, you know, clean, beautiful truck. Sure, as the homeowner, I'm going to go, man, you know, that one guy, he dresses the part, right? Mm-hmm. But if that other individual sold themselves and, you know, was just being honest, like,
right.
Look, you know, like, I'm getting going, you know, I'm getting my feet wet. I'll stand behind my work. I'm going to do a fabulous job. I want to build a name. I'll be a little bit more competitive than the next guy, yada, 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 sell. They're still going to get that job. I mean, I sold work out of a hoopty the same way that I sell it out of, you know, a nice pickup truck now. You know, so presentation is huge. First impression is huge. But ultimately, when I go up and bang on that door or meet you, you know, in your front yard, you know, forget the truck. It's me and you.
Yeah.
We're right here. You know, I got to sell you on me.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, then it doesn't matter what you drive. It's messed up.
I think that's like a quick thought too. Like people, oh, okay, you know, and then hey, how you doing? You know, they're not gonna sit there and think about the truck the whole time you're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's terrible to say. I used to roll up on some jobs on my Harley. You know, brand new, chromed out, $40,000 blinging Harley, and I'd hop off that thing with oil stained pants, oil stained shirt.
You were like the dude from what's that plane movie? Fuck, what's it called?
I can't think of it.
Yeah, the one where he's in the Air Force. A new one just came out last year. Oh my god! Nah, you know they like remade a second one from
like the
like the 80s
one.
version.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and I used to actually do that as like a test to myself, because like I feel like I'm a damn good salesman, but like I'd do it on purpose. I'd be like, I'm gonna show up on my Harley. I'll still sell this job. I'll show up, and then the other end of the spectrum is when I was still doing really well for myself, and I had a nice pickup truck. I bought a Chevy Cobalt for $800. It was a freaking hoopty, dude. I mean, a total piece of shit. And at that time, I had a nice truck.
Yeah.
But I would drive this piece of shit Chevy Cobalt. I would roll up to sell you on a landscape job, you know, a patio, whatever it may be, and I would hop out of a clapped out Chevy Cobalt. Or I might show up on a Harley, or I might show up in my nice pickup truck. But I kind of did that for mind games to myself too, to be like, you know, does it really matter that much? And I'm telling you right now, if you can sell, you can sell. It doesn't matter, right? So you don't need to sell yourself to thinking that you need this beautiful truck to get started or whatever it may be. You know, to each their own though. That's just my mentality.
You know, they say most businesses fail within the first, I think
3 years.
Three, yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest reasons why they fail, in construction, landscaping, we're like probably like top 1 and 2.
Oh yeah.
Is money management. You know, so as we tap into talking about money, how important is money management when you're scaling and growing? We just talked about starting out with a truck that you can afford. But as you grow and scale and start to make money and the dollars are rolling in, you know, I've seen stories of people, you know, first year, you know, buying, you know, $80,000 Harley, and then they're buying a boat.
Well, let's be real. I mean, if you came from like a W-2 job, or you came fresh out of high school and you start having hundreds of thousands of dollars slapping through your bank account, it makes you think like you're a trillionaire. You know, so it's very easy to get caught up in spending. Is the easiest way to put it is if you spend more than you make, you have a problem. And people go like, duh. But no, like they don't really look at that you know, seriously. If you break down your budget and you're spending more than you're making, you have a serious problem. And chances are it's not about how much you're making, it's about you, okay? You are the problem. I know individuals personally that it doesn't matter if they made 10 grand a year, 100 grand a year, $1 million a year, or 10 million a year. They might have nicer things with 10 million a year, but they will be broke. Period, because they cannot manage their money. They're always spending.
And it's would you say it's all about knowing your numbers?
Yeah, and just being realistic with yourself and stop trying to keep up with the Joneses and live a facade and like, you know, like money's cool, but it's not everything. It's a tool, right? And you need to use it as such. You know, I mean, I look at money as, and this is Kevin O'Leary, I believe, Shark Tank guy that says this. Every dollar is a soldier, okay? And your job is to send that soldier out to battle and for him to bring one more back. Some will be sacrificed on the battlefield. That's part of war. But the goal is to bring them back. If you're constantly spending, you're sending them out and they're dying. They're never bringing anything back. So if you start to use money as a tool, which it is, you realize that you can get out of the rat race so quickly. But everyone is caught up in the BS of, you know, social media and, you know,
being bigger and better.
Yeah, they went on this vacation and, you know, they got the new car and, you know, like I said, like the keeping up with the Joneses stuff. Like if you can do early on sacrifice now, you can do that stuff later. But no one wants to sacrifice right now because it's boring and it's painful and, you know, you want to do what they're doing.
You said, you know, keeping up with the Joneses and spending more than you know, than you make, right? And that's where like money management, I feel like, comes into play because as you grow your business, you're going to have more expenses. But at the same time, and it's hard to tell somebody, hey, you have to understand your numbers from the very beginning, day one, because, you know, I didn't. No. I know I didn't.
And honestly, you got to be in business for a while to see
exactly to have those numbers
to go off of.
You know, but you have to, in some way, also look at how much you're spending, you know, whether it's your bank account, a P&L, whatever, a spreadsheet, a notebook that you're just writing, you know.
And let's call a spade a spade. Really, it doesn't matter if you're talking business money or personal. Okay? Like, you know, and that's one thing I don't want to be too tailored to on this discussion is that we're talking business as far as money made, right? Because you can be a W-2 employee and make a very modest living. And that's something I want to dive into here. You know, with being smart with your money, if you're willing to put in the time and willing to put in the sacrifice and willing to withhold the urges to spend on unnecessary stuff, you can be a multimillionaire off of a very modest wage. And people go, no, bullshit. You got to make $100 grand a year. You got to make $250,000 a year. You got to make $500,000 a year. Well, you can get to that number a hell of a lot quicker, but that you don't need to. You can make, you know, one of the number one millionaires classes is teachers, believe it or not. Teachers don't make a lot of money. So what does that tell you? You know, they're doing something smart with their money that they are making. And, you know, that's the thing, you know, and the most important thing and something that our damn school system lacks so tremendously is, you know, we're more worried about pushing college education than we are worried about pushing investment and money management information. You know, if individuals knew what, you know, I know now or I know then and practice that at an early age, everyone would be well off, you know, but we're not worried about that. We're not informing that. You know, they don't want to tell us about that.
So to somebody that's, say, making, I don't know, $500 a week, you know, right now, and is just trying to find a way to trying to find a way to really make it, right? become, like you said, whether it's a millionaire or whatever, have a couple 100,000, just money saved up, how would you split that money up?
So it doesn't matter if you're making 500, 5,000, 50,000, whatever it is, it's a pie, right? And it's a budget that you need to create. You need to create a budget. So if you're only making $500 a year,
and that's what I want to do. Like, we're going to talk about money. I want to really break it down. Like you said, not to the business owner, to the business owner as well, the guys that are starting out, but really to the everyday person.
Yeah,
someone that's watching,
call them the everyday millionaire.
And the everyday millionaire.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, everybody talks, because I was there, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, throw some money here, but like, if you're making $400 or $500, say 40,000, 50,000, a year.
Yeah, let's break it down.
How does that person tap into actually like making money, a decent,
Yeah. So
how do you have enough soldiers there to send them out to battle?
So we'll do this. Step 1, create a budget. Figure out what you need to live on. Okay, so we're talking roof over the head. We're talking electric, gas to get in your vehicle. Not driving a brand new vehicle, a hoopty, whatever. We got to start somewhere. So what we're doing.
So we're not talking about going to get the newest shoes.
Absolutely not. We're living on ramen noodles.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
And it sounds miserable.
And
it's going to be miserable, right?
Potatoes are always good.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're cheap. So what you're going to do is you're going to evaluate what you bring in, okay, and what's going out. And we're going to try to eliminate what's going out as much as possible. Obviously, your living expenses need to be what they need to be. Do you need to live in a beautiful apartment, or can we kind of maybe live in the hood for a little bit?
Right.
Whatever we got to do something aggressive to get ahead first and foremost.
Really quick, I want to pause you. And that's the thing, like, some people are like, living in the hood. If you're living in the hood, and I've lived in many hoods, if you're not in the shit that's out there in the hood, you're not gonna, you hear about the stray bullets every once in a while.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, if you're not out there selling, buying, whatever,
you're
like,
good.
You're good. You can be in the hood all day. For one. So, that's, I feel like that's not an excuse.
And it's a short-term sacrifice. We're not saying we're staying there. Right. We're saying we need to be there right now. We need to be as cost-effective as possible. We're not getting Starbucks. We are not eating out. And like, people are like, well, this isn't realistic. Well, it's not realistic, it doesn't sound like, because you're worried about the norms of what everyone else is doing. If you are willing to get uncomfortable for a short period of time, watch how things can compound.
Uber Eats, I hate Uber Eats.
Yeah, well, and everything.
Really quick, I want to tell you a story. I had a sales guy, one of my sales guys from like two or 3 years ago, say, I don't know what's going on, money, this and that, and he's like, it's just, all this money coming out. We're making money. He's like, but I can't seem to keep up. And I kind of told him the same thing. I was like, well, okay, I want you to do me one favor, and then we'll meet again next week. I said, go through your statement, your last 3 month statements, and look at all your expenses, and then, write them down, put them, and come back to me.
Yeah.
Then he came back. He was like, bro, I'm spending $3,000 to $5,000 on Uber Eats or DoorDash.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
And I was like, there's your problem. I was like, see, I didn't need to solve it.
Yeah.
You solved it yourself. There's your problem.
And that's what, listen, man, everybody honestly has different paths in life, harder starts in life, this, that, and the other thing. I was blessed. I grew up, in a very good, comfortable home, right? So we weren't starving to eat or anything like that. Some people are, okay? So I realize that everyone has a different start and everyone has a different path and a harder path. But if you have a harder path, you've got a stronger backbone, okay? Because life's been hard on you, and you can do this more than anyone else, more than the golden spoon, the silver spoon person can, because you're willing to sacrifice because you've been through that. So you need to sacrifice now. I love my wife dearly, but I'm always telling her, like, look, it's not, we're sacrificing now so we can live later like nobody else.
And the thing about someone who hasn't, who maybe didn't, like you said, getting everything golden spoon or whatever, is they've been uncomfortable.
Yeah,
You know
they're good with it. It ain't out of the norm. So like I said, we can start back at, let's just say $500 a week. And let's say you can scrounge up even $50, a week. Okay. So we'll call it $200 a month. Okay. 12 months, $2,400. So I got a couple charts here, that I brought with me, going over some numbers and whatnot. And this is going to kind of show the importance of investing. Now we're going to go more into the market. So we're talking more stock market, our 401ks, our Roth IRAs, things of that nature. We can put just a couple $1,000s away a year if we start early on and have it compound literally into $1 million plus at age of retirement. Okay. But the number one most important thing about investing, and we talked about this briefly with real estate, is not starting tomorrow, starting now. You have to start ASAP. The younger you are, if you're 20 years old listening to this podcast, just please, anything you can scrounge up, put away into, a brokerage account of some sort, and you will be blessed tenfold, in the future.
And you said only a couple $1,000s a year.
Literally, let's look at one little number here that I got. So we're gonna compare real quick the difference between investing early and investing later when we're making a lot more money, typically where we can afford to do that. So we got two people here. We've got one individual who at the age of 23 started investing. Not outlandish, right? 5 years after high school.
Right.
You got a decent little job probably, even if it's a minimum wage job, you're making some money.
Yeah.
Okay. Year one, individual A invests $1,000. Only 1,000. Not a lot at all. Year two, he's going to go up to 2,000.
That's a year.
A year.
Okay.
Not a month.
Okay.
Nothing like that. For the entire calendar year, $1,000 for the first year. Now you're 24 years old, you're going to invest $2,000. Okay. Now we're 25 years old, we're going to invest $3,000. We're not going to keep increasing. 26, 3,000, 27, 3,000. We're going to do that to the age of 32. So for 10 years, we invested. Okay. Year 1 and 2 was only 1,000 and then 2,000. And then the remaining 7 years was $3,000 a year. You invested over a 10-year period, $27,000. Not crazy, right?
Right.
But you started young. You started at 23. At the age of 32, you stopped. You didn't invest one more dollar. You're done. Not a dollar. Any guess what you'd have for this example, it's 67. But, any guess what that 27,000 would be worth at the age of 67? $27,000.
250.
250,000.
Yeah.
Okay, that $27,000 based on a 10% return, which that's average. That's not crazy. S&P 500's done 11% since it was founded in 57 or 58. So these are real numbers. $1.15 million.
Damn.
27 grand.
By the time you're 67.
By the time you're 67 and you stopped when you were 32, you invested $27,000. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Person B did not invest from the age of 23 to 32. Not a dollar. $0. But at 33, they're like, hey, I should probably start looking for retirement. I'm making a little money. They just start investing. They start investing at the age of 33, $3,000 a year. So they're starting out with 3,000.
Right.
They do $3,000 every single year from the age of 33 to 67. $105,000 they invested. That's 4 times what the other person invested. So what do you think they should have? They should probably have at least a couple of times more than what the other person, right?
At least 2 million.
Right, easily. They got to have at least 2 million. They invested 105, the other person invested 27. Wrong. $820,000.
Damn.
They invested 4x of what the other person did for 34 years.
Yeah.
3,000 every year, 34 years versus 10 years. And they
that's
have $336,000 less than the other individual.
and that's just a 10-year difference.
That's a 10-year difference. That's the difference of starting at 23 versus starting at 33. So the individual that starts now at 33 has to invest really to get up to that 115 number, 5x, 5.5x of what the other person would. Imagine if this person who was investing this kept investing at 33 years old and didn't stop. You got to remember, they stopped investing at 32.
Exactly. Yeah.
Done.
So
Not a dime more. So that is one thing. Like this should be, so, they probably don't do the Pledge of Allegiance in schools anymore, but if they did, you got the American flag, boom, this should be right next to it. Why are we not showing these to kids?
Right.
$1,000 a year, year one, at 23 years old, you're telling me you can't find a way to set aside $1,000 at 23?
Right. Yeah.
If you can't, you're the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then you're telling me from 25 to 32, you can't come up with $3,000? Most of you guys get a tax return more than that. So that's just one small example of the difference of starting now versus starting later. It's huge. I mean, and we will spill into this is we're going to talk timing, right?
Yeah.
People are going to talk.
Because what'd you say a little bit ago? You said time. What was it?
Time in the market will always beat timing the market. Time in the market will always beat time in the market, and the meaning is exactly what it sounds. If you get in early, that's a perfect example. And I'll give you even a better example of that is time in the market. Okay, so people will say, I'm waiting for a dip. Stock market's high, right? My buddy on Facebook said stock market's crashing.
Got a couple of those buddies.
Yeah, fair enough, right? Got to listen to Joe on Facebook. So let's just look at something real quick. Let's say we invest $2,000 a year. Once again, a completely doable number. $2,000 a year over a 20-year period.
And this is in the stock market now?
It's going to be in the stock market.
Okay,
Yep. $2,000 a year, 20 years, $40,000. Okay. The person that invested with the absolute perfect timing. So this means they waited for literally the lowest day of the stock market for the calendar year. They put their $2,000 in. Couldn't have timed it better. AI can't even do that.
Right.
Warren Buffett can't do that. No one can do that. But if you could, you timed it perfect. Then you've got your person that just throws it in. January 1st, $2,000. Boom, into the market. Don't care if it's high, don't care if it's low, $2,000 in. Then you've got your individual who's going to invest on a monthly basis. They're going to do what we call dollar cost averaging. They're going to just every month put a little bit in, okay? Then you've got your person that did the absolute worst day, the market's highest day of the year they bought in, okay? And then you've got your person who was sitting on the sidelines in cash waiting for the perfect time. So the individual that did the perfect timing, which you can't do. I don't care who you are, what kind of charts you read. Absolutely, you can. Go ahead, read me that number up top for the
151,391.
So 151,000 if they did the absolute best.
Can you get some B-roll of
timing.
This?
We'll get that on there, and then so let's go the complete opposite, Kevin. Tell me the number for the worst timing, the absolute worst timing.
121,171.
So we're talking $30,000 difference from the best time to the worst time in the market.
And this is somebody investing
$2,000
per year
for 20 years.
And they just happen to pick the worst time every single year.
Literally the worst day of the year every year for 20 years straight. And the other individual picked the best day every year for 20 years straight. Okay, we're talking about a $30,000 difference here, which seems you might go, okay, 30,000 is a lot, right? But you're comparing the absolute best versus the absolute worst,
right?
And versus the number, if you were to stay in cash and just wait to think you could time it out, that 20 years, $2,000 a year would be worth $44,000. So the moral to this story is that there is no better time than today. And a beautiful thing is dollar cost averaging.
Right.
Forget most of us aren't able to get lump sums of money really quick. So like our guy making $500 a week, he's got the $50 each week. He's got $200 a month. Every month I want him to buy $200 in, $200 in. I don't want him to save till the end of the year when he has 24 and then put it in. $200. He will get a good average. He will buy in sometimes at the high, sometimes at the low, sometimes in the middle, but it will average out very nicely across the board. Okay, so the key is getting in and not getting in and waiting till you've got the money.
Right.
Just get something into the market ASAP. Okay, and what a lot of this is based off of, so our first example was a 10% annual return, which isn't crazy. That's a good return, but it's not crazy. Our other one was a 9%. So we're balancing out, in between the two. One more quick example of timing. Okay, we're gonna do now a little bit higher amount, $5,000 a year. Okay, you did $5,000 a year for 10 years straight, 50 grand. Okay, we're gonna say that one person started when they were 25, so they vested 25 to 35. The other person started at 35, 10 years later. The other person started at 45. 55 is the last example. The individual who started at 25 and stopped at 35 and put 50 grand in, we're talking approximately $787,000. The person who started at 55 and put that same 50 grand in, but not as much exposure time into the market, 83,000.
Damn.
Same money. It's the same money. It's just the timing getting it in. And everyone has an excuse of why they can't do it now. Yeah. Instead of, I can probably live without this a little bit, or no, I need thousands to put in. My buddy told me that I need 10 grand to put in the stock market if I'm going to get in. No, you need to get just something going here.
And why is that? Can you explain why the earlier you start, the better?
Yeah, so it's good. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing called compound interest.
Okay.
And compound interest, as far as I'm concerned, is the eighth wonder of the world. And as far as Albert Einstein, quote from Albert Einstein, the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. And it's something that will work for you or it'll work against you.
So basically, if you have $1,000 and you get 10%, now you got $1,100.
Yep.
The next year, and then that keeps building off of that same profit.
Basically, think of it as a snowball rolling down the hill. When it starts, it's very, very small,
right?
And no one even looks at it, or it doesn't catch anyone's attention until it's down towards the bottom of the hill, and now it's a big ass,
because it's been getting more and more.
It's slow, it's steady, it's boring. It's super, super boring. Okay, investing is very boring. I cannot stress that enough. You will log into your account and you will look at it, and you'll be 5 years in, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah,
I'm putting this money away. I'd much rather be driving my Escalade. This is boring. Right. I'm not getting any satisfaction. Just to jump back real quick on this one chart of the individual that invested the 10 years, Kevin. So they went 27 in. At the age of 40, they only had 88 grand. At the age of 50, 229. Okay, we're getting something. At the age of 60, 600 grand. Yeah. And then just look at this. So 60 to 67. 7 years later, they came from 600 grand to 1.15 million.
Yeah.
Boring. This is all boring until you get down at the bottom here. Yeah. And that is compound interest. Most people are experiencing compound interest from, loans and stuff. They're having interest work against them. If you let it work for you, I mean, you will reach a point where it's making money, that you really can't fathom.
What is your opinion on cash?
I don't like cash.
Because the one who, what was it? The one who didn't invest?
Yeah, he didn't invest. He waited 10 years, so he didn't start till. Okay.
Here,
He sat cash. He sat cash. 44 grand. His 40 turned to 44 grand by setting 2,000 away for 20 years. And that says it all about cash. Cash is dead. Cash loses value year over year.
Yeah.
Due to inflation.
So cash is like having a truck.
What's that?
Cash is basically like having a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you want to have cash on the sidelines for emergencies. You want to have an emergency account. You definitely want to have that. So that's the, oh shit, hit the fan. I've got this surplus to get into to cover my bills. You need to have that. There's no denying that. But just stacking cash, you're losing money year after year after year, minimum 2%. After COVID, when they started running the presses and didn't shut it off and were printing money like it was going out of style, 5-6%. So your $100,000 was worth $94,000.
Yeah.
So on and so forth. You have got to do something to get ahead of inflation, whether it's real estate, whether it's stocks, whether it's precious metals. You've got to have some sort of hedge against inflation.
So how do you balance what you keep in cash versus what you invest?
I keep an emergency account and what I like to call what helps me sleep at night fund. And that's to each individual's dollar amount. Your what helps me sleep at night dollar amount might be a lot higher or might be a lot lower than mine. Whatever helps you sleep at night, that's enough. That's good. If you have a 6-month nest egg to cover your bills, that's fantastic. If you can't figure out a game plan in 6 months, you've got bigger problems. But that's good for me. Anything above that, boom. Into real estate, into the market, into something to make more money. You're
sending those soldiers out.
Absolutely. You gotta do something with it. You cannot just sit stagnant on cash. And that's going to be individual to individual, right? Like I said, that dollar amount for me might be different for you. You might have severe paranoia and you're like, I need $1 million. You're an idiot.
Right. Yeah.
You're an idiot. But if that's what you need to sleep at night, then more power to you. I mean, that's the most important thing is that you're sleeping good at night, right? But, that's where I'm at, man. I really don't like sitting cash heavy. I mean, I sit appropriate to cover,
it's a good way to say
unforeseen expenses and things of that nature. But my goal is to send it out as quick as possible. And if it's not sitting in a bank account that's readily available, you can't spend it. And you're more anxious to go make more because you're like, oh shit, I don't have that much money in my account.
Maybe this is like a different like type of mindset that I haven't reached yet or what. But I was talking to a friend of mine and I kind of am the same way. You have your emergency fund but I don't like to sit on too much cash, but at the same time I don't like to have too much debt. And I have a friend. He's like, I got like 16 million in debt, good debt or whatever. I feel like I wouldn't sleep.
I agree, man. I mean, I feel you on
what
that.
What the hell? 16 million?
I'll be honest with you. Like, I used to be no debt. Like, I mean, that used to be
that's
my
how
mentality.
I used to.
Is like, if I'm not buying,
if I can't afford it in cash, I'm not. Yeah, I can't afford
it. Let's break it down real simple here for basic numbers. Okay. You go, let's say, so you're doing well for yourself and you go out and you're like, you know what? Want a write-off, want a new ride, whatever. I go buy $100,000 vehicle. Okay, you got $100,000 in your bank account to pay for that in full. But you go to the dealership and they say, Kevin, throw $20,000 down. We'll give you 4% interest rate on the 80. I'm like, all right, 4%. I don't know. I don't like debt. If you can take that $80,000 and put it into the stock market and make 10% year after year on it, you're 6% ahead. Why would I take that $80,000, tie it up to save 4 to miss out on 10?
Right.
There's your answer. And that's not always for everybody because you got to be in a certain position, right? For that, for those numbers, to really be crunching down like that, where it even makes sense for you to go making that purchase in the first place. But, that's where I got with it. And I had advisors tell me, and they're like, they would tell me that. And I knew that. I'm not an idiot. I know the numbers. I know what my stock account's making. I know my mortgage is. Like, I want to go pay off my mortgage. I had like a 4% interest rate.
Mm-hmm.
Why the hell would I go pay off a 4%
Right.
interest rate and pass by, 10% plus?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make any sense. So, and then also recognizing if it's good versus bad, debt.
And I think that's what freaks me out when if someone's like, oh, I'm $15 million, $16 million in debt, in real estate, because it's like, then then you got to keep 10 and 10. Then you got to keep all these things that you're like.
Well, and an important thing here is the word leverage. It all depends on how leveraged you are, right? Like, if that dude's got 16 million, let's just say, in real estate loans, but he's got properties, worth 32 million. Is he leveraged? No. He's got $16 million in equity, sitting there. Now, if he's got $16 million in mortgage loans and, it's only got a value of $20 million, okay, he's a little more leveraged.
Right.
Some tenants move out, some hard economical times come down. Like, yeah, there's going to be some challenges there. But it's all about leverage and not over leveraging yourself.
Right.
And your risk tolerance. Your risk tolerance might be different than mine. Our risk tolerance might be different than a 60-year-old person because they are at the back stage of life and they're not willing to risk their retirement.
Right.
We're 30-somethings. We can go, okay, well, we can lose half of it. We're not pulling this money for 30 years anyway. Like, we're not, we're more willing to take on risk. So that is all going to change from individual to individual. I certainly don't think you should over leverage yourself because it just takes one bad economic cycle or, one loss of the job or something like that. And, you're in a real pinch then.
Or a bad economic year or whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think you want to, you want to be careful, but also in a lot of aspects too, like most banks aren't going to allow you to really over leverage yourself. They're going to want at least 25% equity. They're going to want, debt versus income ratio to be at a certain number.
You're reminding me of, who's the dude who wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Robert Kiyosaki.
Yes, him. He's like, someone asked him, he was in a podcast. He's like, how much debt do you have? He's like, like 300 million or some shit like that.
Yeah, crazy.
And they were like, how do you even like fucking like just take that all in? And he's like, if I'm in debt for $1 million, it's my problem.
I know what you're saying.
He's like, if I'm in debt for $10 million, it's my problem. But 200 million, hey, that's the bank's
problem.
And that's like,
That's
I'm like,
true
what
as hell,
the
man.
fuck?
No, that's true.
He's like, now the banks are working with me. They don't. I can't default because they will take.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I'm like, damn, like that's like.
Well, and I'm like a very, 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 very little fish swimming in a lake with real estate.
Me too.
But
me too.
like
I'm a guppy.
But I've already noticed my relationship with my bank that handles my mortgages on these more recent deals than I have on my early on deals. So that's another thing too. You start getting relationships. Yeah, with a bank, and you've got 10 million. 50 million, 100 million out. Yeah, it's in the bank's best interest that they do anything and everything they can to keep everything floating because they are the ones with their name signed behind the debt. Right. So that's a whole nother, aspect there as well. And that's a great book too, by the way, to break down real estate and whatnot.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones I ever read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
I have a more simple, one of the things that I read a long time ago for business owners, and I don't remember where I read it or how I read it, but they were like, one of the best things about business is you pay yourself first. And basically when you have like your own business, if I do a roof for you and it's $10,000, I'm getting all of that $10,000, right? Obviously, I have to pay suppliers. I have to pay, my guys, employees, and this and that. and taxes and whatever. But the chunk that you keep, you get to invest in yourself first, and then figure out, say, the taxes later, right? And that's like a powerful statement, because if you look at a W-2 employee, they're paying everybody, and they get the last end of the chunk. If they can make, $700, but they're taking home $400, $450, whatever.
Yeah.
They paid everybody first. They're taking that last end. When you're a business owner on another end, basically you're taking all that $10,000. I don't have to pay the supplier same day I get paid.
Which is why a lot of companies fold, like you said earlier on, because lack of money management. They go $10,000, But yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm following.
And it's about leveraging that so that you don't fold. Obviously, hey, here's a $10,000 check. That's not all yours. You should know off of the top.
Yeah,
that's not. Mine's probably 2,000.
Yeah,
right. Everything else is whatever.
Right.
But understanding that out of that 2,000, I can say, hey, you know what? Out of this 2,000, I'm gonna invest 1,000, for example, right? And this is on a case by case. But if I were a W-2 employee myself, and I have been before, used to work at Taco Bell, by the way. Shout out Taco Bell.
T-Bell.
If I were to go back now and look at myself and be able to give myself a tip as a W-2 employee, I would say, okay, if I'm making $500 a week, I would say, all right, $100, invest them.
Yeah.
Right? Whether it's stock, give it to the family's whoever.
Right.
And then another $100 is things that you need.
Yep.
Food. Really, food bills, light,
food
water. Yeah.
Ceiling over your head.
The last little bit is what I would say. Okay,
play money.
Play money, exactly. But if you're making $500, I feel like you can easily put $100 in one thing, right? Like the stock market, for example. $100 into a savings account. Yeah. And maybe $100 somewhere else, and then work with the 200.
Yeah, you got to be willing to sacrifice though.
And if you have say an outstanding light bill, hey, call them up. Hey, look, I'm gonna pay you half.
Yeah, put me on a payment plan. Yeah.
I can pay you $25 a week.
Right.
Water bill, same thing, $25 a week.
Yeah.
Because what you invest in all these other things, the return that you get
is going to amplify past all that.
Past what these little temporary bills.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing that I just want to really reinforce here is that you don't have to make a ton of money. You need to be very, very, very conservative with the way that you let your money move, as far as what you're doing with it, and sacrificing early on, it goes back to that one number, breakdown of 10 years early on versus 35 years straight. You need to sacrifice now to get ahead later. And I think you will agree too, is once you start to accumulate a little bit of wealth, it gets easier to accumulate wealth. Opportunities present themselves that, you wouldn't be looking for. Right. Things happen. People come in the same room as you, stuff falls into place. I don't know what you think, but I feel like, the first 100 grand is so hard to make, and then, the ones follow come a lot easier. Yeah, because you've learned, you've got resources, you've got money working for you now, so that is a very, very crucial thing here, is just to understand the time is now and get in sooner than later.
I got a couple of questions for you here based off of our notes here that I want to ask you about money. Well, I guess first of all, outside of this question, why do you think they don't teach that in school? Like, why don't they talk about money in school?
That's actually a really good question. I think it's like one of those things like, that they say you're not supposed to talk about, what is it, like religion, money, and I think there's one other thing that like you're not supposed to talk about just with random individuals. I don't know if it's, I think actually too, if we want to go real wild, I think a lot of it is they kind of want us dumb. They want a lot of us to be in that rat race, right? The people that are outside of it know, and the people that are inside are running the wheel, and they'll never get out. And, you need those people on the outside to have the people on the wheel to help push them, ahead and whatnot. It's a lot of greed. And, I really don't know, man. It's something I would love to go, and if anyone's listening, a local, school or anything like that, in the Toledo area or whatnot, I would love to come in and talk more. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, right?
Yeah, by the way, I meant to say that earlier.
Yeah.
Because anybody looking at these charts.
Yeah, no, I'm not a financial advisor. I own a lawn and landscape and an automotive company, but I understand how money works. And I started very, very young.
How old were you when you started?
I had my first brokerage account at like 13 years old.
Damn.
But we're talking a couple $100 in it. See, that's the thing.
Hey,
like people are like,
though.
People are like, oh, and like, no, that was my money. It was put in and it was invested, and and yeah, that's one thing I want to say. Like, I'm not here to try to give financial advice that you need to live with. I'm just telling you facts, right? I'm telling you based off of experience, right? I'm telling you, that if I was smarter with my money earlier on, how much further along I would have been. I mean, I started an investment account really early, but I made probably about 10 years of, screw ups
right
before getting out ahead of it. I mean, I could tell you tons of horror stories. I would hit home runs and then I would hit strikeouts.
Yeah.
I mean, you name it. Bitcoin had it at $3,000. It topped out at 120. I doubled my money in it, but like still, I should have held it. Apple had that back in 2010, 2011. Amazon had in 2012, 2013.
And you sold all those?
Yeah, double my money sold. Carvana had that at $20 a share. It's like 360.
Is it up now?
Yeah, I mean, it did.
I think it tanked for a
well,
minute.
Well, it did. It went up, went down, and went back up. Not to say that
rebranded.
that's a great example of a company to buy. I mean, I'll tell you another one. Like, Bitcoin, and I don't want to get into cryptocurrency. It's
I'm
not really.
going to use the bathroom.
Yep.
Sorry, we're back from our little bathroom break. I had to take a little bathroom break. Nothing crazy, But basically, really quick, what Devon is saying is, if you're in the womb listening right now, invest. No.
Get in. I mean, get in. And and one thing too, I want to say, like, because a lot of people are really intimidated by investing and whatnot. So I do want to say, like, there's lots of great financial advisors out there that can help you and whatnot. But to quote the great Warren Buffett, one of the best investors of all times, if you don't know what to invest in, you buy the S&P 500.
Right.
So what the S&P 500 is you are betting on, you're putting a wager on the 500 biggest companies in the economy. Companies come in, companies fall out of it, okay, but you're constantly betting on them. That is what has returned almost 11% year over year since it was created and officially created in like the late 50s. Okay, so you don't need to be smart. You don't need to find the next Apple. You don't need to find the next Amazon. You don't need to find the next Tesla. Okay, you just need to get in and just buy the S&P. It's boring, you know. And one thing I want to just talk about briefly here is, like, with social media and whatnot, there has been so much like clout, I guess is the word for it, towards like these, like, your Bitcoins and like your GameStop that like was a bankrupt company that they somehow ran up, you know, like there's some goofy stuff out there happening. And if you're not sharp with what truly is going on, you will get burned. 100%. But if you just invest in the boring S&P 500, you're not going to double overnight.
Right.
You know, you're not going to become a millionaire overnight. It's going to be slow, steady, you know, drop fills the bucket, so to speak. Investing, you will not lose. Like once again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I will tell you, if you buy the S&P 500, and continuously invest into it, you will, you know, be really, really well off with time.
And what I think is cool about the S&P 500 is, well, not cool, but just like, I guess cool in a way, is like they drop out if they're not like
if you're not performing, you're out. If you're performing, you're in.
So it kind of makes
so you don't have to do the homework
for you.
Yeah, you don't have to do the homework. It's done for you, right? You're betting on essentially the global economy. You know, and that's one thing also too I want to touch base on is like I used to try to find the home runs. Okay, I told you I had Bitcoin at under 3. Yeah, I had Apple and Amazon.
But you sold Bitcoin?
I doubled my money and I sold it.
Yeah,
I was playing a short-term game.
Yeah,
and not promoting Bitcoin, but like I had at least 2 shares. You know, or 2 coins, I guess you would call it. So do the math. Those 2 coins I was in at $6,000. At the peak, it was they would have been worth almost $250,000. So do I think about that every once in a while? Absolutely. But like, you know, the problem is, it is what it is. But you know, and same with like Amazon and Apple. Like I doubled, tripled money in those, sold out, and now I hold a ton of Amazon and Apple. If I would have just held on to them from the get-go and kept buying, you know, I'd be much further off. You know, I'll give you one other example is like penny stocks are shit. Okay. I don't care what anyone says. Most of us are not smart enough to know that the next penny stock is going to become an Apple or Amazon. Let's just face it.
You're going to have people in the comments. What do you mean?
I don't care. Like, it is what it is. Like, if you're that smart, good for you. You don't even probably need to be listening to this. But like, I used to buy like shit stocks, you know? Like, I had a penny stock that I owned. I threw like $6-7 grand into it. I went up like $90,000. Okay, in a short period of time. Yeah. You know, and I didn't sell this one. It went up 90 grand. And I was like, it went up to like, I don't know, $4 or $5 a share. And I'm like, no, this thing's going to 40 or 50.
Yeah.
Forget.
And that's a golden ticket right there.
Yeah, forget 90 grand. This is my ticket out, right? I'm gonna make $5 million off of this trade. Yeah. Held it. Fucking crashed, dude. Crashed. I think I got out even, but like the moral of the story is like, you know, I'm really was betting on the unknowns. If I would have taken my money from when I opened my brokerage account when I was a young teenager and literally just bought the S&P 500, nothing else, not Apple, not Amazon, not any of these blue chip stocks. Tesla, another one. I held Tesla in 2013.
Damn.
I still have some today.
From 2013.
No. Sold it, grabbed my gains, and bought in at a higher price. Yeah. Once again, like I could give you a list of stocks that like
I laugh in a good way.
Yeah, I mean it sucks. It is what it is. But
you know,
like
Bitcoin, I had a friend praising Bitcoin. This is back. He was, bro, you gotta buy Bitcoin. It was like $4,000 at the time. Man, that shit's not gonna do anything. Yeah. You know, and I still think about that too.
Yeah, and I'll be honest with you, like I'm not a crypto person. I don't believe in it. I own $0 of cryptocurrency today.
Me too.
You know, and to each their own. If that's what you believe in, you know, good luck. But there's not a true financial statement behind it, and there's no backing. And I get you'll probably say in the comments, well, the dollar's not backed by the gold standard anymore. Like, yeah, that's true. That's why I'm telling you not to sit on a bunch of cash. Like, you know, but like Apple, we know what Apple did in sales last quarter. We know what they're projected. You know, we know we have information. We have facts. It goes back to like you and I in business. We don't know our numbers day one, but years and years and years and years of data, we can make an educated guess of where things are going to go. Bitcoin, there's no.
It's so much volatility.
Yeah, and once again,
and that's a big thing, volatility these days.
And people
fucking...
will fight over this whole cryptocurrency thing,
Yeah.
so I don't want that to be,
the main focus.
The main focus by any means. If you believe in it, great.
Right.
Good for you. I did own it. I could have made a lot of money off of it. I made some money off of it and got out of it and don't have any interest in getting back into it. And maybe in 10 years, I'll look back at this podcast and say that I'm an idiot for not buying it right now. I don't know. But I do know for a fact that if I were to buy just the S&P 500, plain Jane, boring, year after year after year after year, that is a recipe to become a multimillionaire. I do know that.
And what I'm getting off of you is basically, if you're not in a financial position to say, lose $1,000 or even $500 a year, play it safe.
Yeah.
By investing in the S&P.
Yeah, it's boring. It's going to be a very slow return. You might see your buddy on Facebook who, when Bitcoin, if it goes back up to $120, is like, I told you guys to buy at 60, and you're like, man, I knew I should have. But what also if that 60 goes down to 10 or whatever?
Right.
But we know for a fact, I'm going to tell you right now, the S&P will not disintegrate because that is the global economy. Okay, if the S&P disappears, you've got a lot bigger concerns than the stock market.
Right.
You want to be stocking up on ammunition, not stocks, because that means that the global economy has essentially completely.
Yeah.
And you can go back to the Great Depression. You can go back to the housing market crash, the .com bubble, the COVID drop. You can go back to all these and boom, it hit. It went down. It came up tenfold, of where it was.
But that's the thing. People think there's like an AI bubble right now that's about to pop.
Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I do feel like there has been a lot of, AI. There's been a lot of AI movement, or a lot of AI has moved the market lately. Don't get me wrong with that. And I do have a lot of AI in my portfolio. It's not going anywhere. It is kind of comparable in a sense to like when the internet came around with the .com bubble, where you had these internet stocks that were going bonkers, and then eventually a large majority of them collapsed completely. But once again, you're betting on an individual stock. Why are we complicating the game here?
Right.
Why not just go with what we know? That I mean, you don't have to be a genius to say what are the odds that if I bet on the best 500 companies in the economy, and you're gonna go out here and try and find a couple winners and beat that,
yeah,
the odds of that happening are really slim to none, and that's with you dedicating all your time and resources to find that said company or companies.
What if and now I'm just asking just random questions. Well, it's true though. It happens though. What if I'm somebody I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna get an AI broker to do some day trading and shit like that for me.
Yeah.
What advice would you give somebody?
I mean, once again, so that's going to tell me that you have a high risk tolerance and you're willing to take some big hits and some big ups, but I don't think that you really come out that far ahead, man. It's just,
do you think that's the future though? Do you think AI brokers, like people because I don't know if you've seen the commercials, but there's been a couple. Oh, I got this AI doing my
I've seen some
my
stuff
stocks
like that
and
too.
I'm winning. And
don't get me wrong, AI is basically a brain that doesn't forget and learns off of every transaction prior. So at some point in time, will there come a time where maybe that is extremely lucrative? Sure, but also then you've got to ask yourself, if these brokers are using AI, what are these Fortune 500 companies using?
Right.
They're using it too. So why don't they exponentially grow as well? So I don't know. I mean, that's not really, like I said, man, I've hit so many homers and struck out so many times that like I've went back to the bare bone basics,
Yeah.
of investing, of less is more, keep it simple, stupid, right? You've probably heard that.
Yep.
And I know that really the one thing that I can control is how much I'm putting in. And the only thing I'm focused on right now is putting in as much as possible, as frequently as possible. I'm not really focused on where the market is as far as a high or where it is as a low or trying to time anything, because let's be honest, like, so I'm 31 right now. I mean, chances are I'm really not going to even touch any of this money for 20, maybe even 30 years.
Right.
So, that doesn't matter, right? It goes back to that original chart. Like, as heavily as I can overfund accounts now, the sooner I can pull off later on, and the more money that will be readily available, at that retirement age.
Do you have an account for your kids?
Currently, I do not. I will say, like,
Are you gonna open one when they get?
I don't know.
Because what's the age? Like 6 or 7?
Well,
or
I mean, you
whatever,
you could be a
Or-
custodian on an account, at birth, realistically. But
really?
Yeah,
know that.
absolutely. But the one thing, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is really brutal to say, but like, if I left here today and got hit by a car, my son will be okay. My wife will be okay. I would rather just load the shit out of my account because it doesn't really matter because it's ultimately gonna go that direction to them eventually. And I want my son to fight it out, right?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of barbaric to say,
Figure it out. Yeah.
But I want him to be on a little bit of the struggle bus. Like, I'm not gonna, I got tips, I got advice, to give and all that, but like, I'm not gonna just stuff a silver spoon up his ass and, and create an entitled child. Like, that's not gonna happen. And, like I said, when my time comes, they'll be all right.
I think whether you want to or not, though, it'll happen because what's the saying? Good times make bad times make strong men, or strong men make good times make weak.
Well,
you know what saying I'm talking
and
about.
I mean, it's basically the same. There's like a story about, a guy who, came in through the desert riding a camel, and then his son went through the desert driving a Range Rover, and then his son went through the desert driving a Ferrari, and then his son came through the desert riding a camel. Well, what does that mean? That means that the first generation made it, the second generation lived off of it, typically the third generation blew it, and the fourth generation had to restart completely. But if things are structured properly, you can create generational wealth that can go on, through a trust and stuff for generations.
Are you talking about the what's it called? Rockefeller.
Yeah, so the Rockefellers have a trust
Yep.
that they establish where basically, and this was created, a long time ago, and really outside
And that's like
of
a trust. Can you explain that trust?
So
do you understand it?
I know a good portion of it. Basically, they've got it set up where, like, so let's say John Rockefeller, his son was only allowed so much of the trust. But then his son was also granted a portion of it. And then his son's son was granted a portion of it. And this is before children are even, made at that point. But you're creating it staggered and stair-stepped where now we talk compound interest. When you talk about compounding interest over 4 generations, the trust can never run dry. Because they're only allowing out so much money to each individual generation. But realistically, especially to the average Joe like you and I, the amount that each generation is getting is an amount that is absolutely fucking
It's
stupid.
yeah,
it's
you're
stupid.
not gonna spend
But
it.
so that's the goal, right? That's the goal, is to create generational wealth, not money just for my family today, but
Right.
for my son and my son's son. And I will structure things to be that way. We'll see how amplified they get with the time, that I'm blessed to be on this earth with. But it should be set up in that way, right?
Yeah.
Because like no one, okay, so my son, when he turns 18, if I give him like $5 million, like what does that do?
Ruin him.
Ruin him. It does. Now when he's maybe in his like 50s, if I have it staggered with 150 grand a year starting in his 40s through the rest of it, like that's different. And then that allows that money to compound that much longer before he gets access to it.
Right.
So, that's what I have more interest in than creating a, account, because, let's be honest, like, I don't know that everyone will feel this way, but I feel like if you're born in the United States of America, you're already blessed, day one, right? So he's already got blessings. He's born in the right country to prosper.
The best country, I mean.
Yeah, he's born to prosper. He's born into a family that isn't struggling with opportunities.
You're literally born with opportunity.
Yeah, you have no excuse. I don't care what you say or, how hard, everyone's always just in their feelings, man, and it's okay to feel things, right? Obviously, but like, especially as a man, like there's a time where you just need to man the fuck up. You do, like, stop feeling bad for yourself and start, doing actions to put yourself and your family in a better position. And if you're not going to, I don't give a shit what handouts you get. You're never going to be ahead. It goes back to what I started off by saying. It doesn't matter if you have poor money management skills. It doesn't matter how much money you make a year.
Yeah.
You're always going to be broke.
Yeah.
You might have some nicer shit, but you're always going to be broke. That same goes for that person that's always feeling bad for themselves.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter. If you get the break that you wanted, chances are you're still going to, flush it down the drain.
Right.
So, I mean, that's kind of where I stand with things.
I think the biggest thing, people like you and me, who are, breaking barriers and really breaking barriers in our families,
100%.
Economical situation is, I think the biggest thing that people like you and me can do is teach our kids that.
Yeah.
Teach our kids money management. Teach them compound interest.
Yeah, because if you don't know, you don't know, right? And that's what I said. Like, I would love the opportunity to get into some schools and talk to, underprivileged, kids and things like that, and preach this stuff, because they don't know. Maybe they don't have, a dad or a mom even at home at all, yet alone someone setting a good example for them. So, you are a product of your own environment, and if you're not blessed enough to break outside of those barriers, like, you're stuck there, so it is our job, to teach as many individuals as possible. This isn't a secret, right? This isn't a secret recipe. I've showed this stuff to so many of my employees. It's stupid. Yeah. And honestly, probably majority of them have done absolutely nothing with it. Yeah. And that's fine. But I know that at least I have done, my due diligence to provide them with facts and information. It's a fact that I can't pay you 6 figures a year to cut grass.
Right. Yeah.
I can provide you with some knowledge, though, where if we can take what you are making and just be more strategic with it and consistent with it, I can make you a millionaire. I guarantee you. It's going to be boring and it's going to take time, but we can get there. But are you willing to sacrifice?
That's how I know you're a good leader, because I do the same thing with my employees. Like,
yeah, we're all in it together.
And at the end of the day, like you said, you can't say, hey, I'm going to pay you 6 figures. Like, you just can't.
Yeah,
but
each position has a max.
You can teach them the ropes, and you can teach them how to, do things, right?
Well, and
as far as what you know.
And as long as you're doing that, that's all that matters. I mean, it's like the famous saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? You know, I'm leading them to the water by saying, look, like this is the path to break out and to reach financial freedom. I'm not going to manage your money. You know, that's for you to do. You know, but that's as a leader, that's what you should do.
Got a couple of questions here for you. You've said emotions are the enemy of investing. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you know, well, it goes back to like, you know, my home runs and my strikeouts and stuff. If you let emotion get in the way of your investing, you will get ran over. You know, just because your emotions tell you, you know, that Bitcoin is the greatest thing, or, you know, well, it might be emotions too from others leading to you feeling a certain way. So you might see that this is the next latest and greatest thing. You're not doing your due diligence, you know, to research in. You know, that's a recipe for disaster. You cannot let emotions get in the way. And if you are a person that you think there's no way to avoid that, then you have no right whatsoever to be personally managing your money. You definitely need a financial advisor. Financial advisors don't, you know, what I also mean by that is like the ups and the downs.
Right.
You log into your account and you see that you just got wiped out 20% in the last 3 weeks. Your emotions are going to go,
Right.
the economy's crashing, I need to sell now.
Yeah.
You're going to make an irrational decision. If you feel like that, you should not be managing your money. You need to have a broker. You need to have someone that's talking you off the ledge.
Right.
Saying, no. It's a market cycle. If we
Yep.
got a little extra money, let's push it in right now, you know, and ride the wave up. You know, that's what I mean by that.
How do you personally balance stocks versus real estate?
So I like to keep pretty much around a 50% balance. That's just me personally. That's not a recipe for any individual specifically. It's just what I like. I like a balance of real estate, and I like a balance of stocks. You know, so that way if the real estate crashes, the stocks, you know, might be what pulls me out, or vice versa. You know, it's just, I have a passion for both of them.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it as balanced as much as possible. If I start to get really heavy on real estate, I try to come in and overfund with my brokerage accounts to try to balance that out as much as possible. It might lean 70-30, 30-70 one way sometimes, and it might, you know, come back down to 50-50. It's just what I like to shoot for.
But real estate helps your passive income, and stocks is more long term.
Long term, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Real estate's also long term in the aspect too of your goal with real estate is either A, one day you sell it off, right, and get a large lump sum, or B, you have now paid down the note where you've eliminated that as an expense and you have even more passive income.
So if it's somebody looking for passive income, it's real estate.
Yeah. Stocks are not, I mean, you can use stocks as passive income with like dividends and stuff like that, but you're killing your long-term number, right? You're not going to, if you're pulling out of
compound.
it. Yeah, I don't pull shit out. I have not pulled a dime out of any of my brokerage accounts ever.
Yeah.
So that is my down the road, my chariot into the sunset, so to speak, is my stock accounts. My real estate is creating income today, but it's also 100% a retirement, vessel for later on. Now, who knows? I might, like a lot of the real estate I'm buying right now are from people in their like 60s and stuff. They're done. They've been the landlord. They ain't trying to do it anymore. Unload, give me my check. I'm going to, Fort Lauderdale, and I'm chilling on the beach. And I hopefully will probably reach that point as well, or I might be in my 60s and have a good system in place where I might say, no, I'll take the steady check every month. I don't need the big payout.
Right.
It's a retirement vessel, certainly more easily leveraged in today's time versus stocks are going to be way long term.
How important? Kind of going back to when you're buying real estate, how important is it to ask, why are you selling?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, most of the time that answer comes up without even asking it. I mean, for example, the one I bought, from the plowing event, I knew why he was selling. He told me he inherited it, didn't want to be a landlord. Another property I bought, the guy was in his late 60s. He was tired of being a landlord. Another property I bought, she was moving down to Florida. I don't think that's really important, as it is, the general structure, the bones of the deal. Now you can use maybe the reason for selling as leverage to buy, right? You can use that as leverage. I think that's probably the only part, in my opinion, where it's important is to maybe use that into your deal to structure something competitive.
Right. What matters more, time or discipline?
Well, I mean, I think they both kind of go hand in hand with each other, because without discipline, you probably won't have the time in, and discipline allows you to keep the time in, right? So I think that those both play really closely with each other. Yeah, I really can't say that one outweighs the other. I really think that they work in unison of each other.
That's a good answer. What makes the S&P 500 such a powerful strategy for normal people?
KISS, keep it simple, stupid. You don't have to think about anything. You just buy it and hold it. Don't sell it. Do not sell it. Just buy it. Buy it when it's high. Buy it when it's low. Buy it in the middle. Just buy it. If you got money to throw at it, and don't overthink it or do not overcomplicate it.
So even if Joe on Facebook is saying, it's going to go down.
Yeah, buy it. And if it goes down, and that's the other thing too, like if it's down, I mean, I'm like scrounging up the coins underneath the cushion. I'm throwing I love it. Like if it's getting hit hard, man, I'm when people are running, that's when you should be running in. The wealthy people will always run into the fire when others are running out. And what I mean by that is if the stock market's crashing, those guys are freaking dumping everything in. If the housing market's crashing, they're dumping everything in because they know that if they weather the storm out, they will get a return on their investment like nobody else.
I have this guy on YouTube that I'm subscribed to, and he says he's got one simple rule. I think it's ABB. Always be buying.
Always be buying, baby. Yeah.
You know what? One of the most powerful things that I feel like people don't do these days. I did it. This is how I started. I rented me and a bunch of friends lived together. We rented a 5-bedroom house. It wasn't the nicest hood. So it's like $1,000, $200 each.
Split it.
Everybody's got their own room. Is it uncomfortable? Sometimes. I mean, we're guys, so for me it was like whatever.
Yeah.
No,
but that's a great way to break down, the pricing barrier.
But the fact that you can live in a house, 5 guys in one house, just $200 a month, plus bills are all split. It's like you can really build a lot of money with that. And people just
the thing is, and I talked about how blessed we are to be born in the United States, also partial curse, because we are so freaking entitled. If we did world travel of other countries and seen what other countries and other individuals are living in that is a complete norm to them, dude, you can't sit here and tell me that you can't live off of $500 a week.
Exactly.
It's bullshit.
Yeah. It's because you want to be comfortable.
Yeah, you want your $8 Starbucks coffee. You want your Uber Eats. You want, a pretty nice ride. You want to go out and eat and spend, $100 on a meal that you have no business on
spending.
Doing. Yeah. Versus sacrificing early on. And that's like the number one thing here is sacrifice, right? If you're willing to get uncomfortable for a period of time, it will pay out dividends that you will never you could never fathom. I know my numbers. Like, I know what I'm putting in and where I'm at and where I'm going to be. I know it. It's a math equation. It might be plus or minus a little bit, but I know where it's going to be. I don't care what anyone tells me.
Yep.
It's done. I know if I can get above that monthly contribution, I'm there that much faster.
Right. On a personal level and on a business level, this is one of the quotes that I always, one of my favorite quotes is, everybody lies in this world. Numbers never lie.
Yeah.
And whether you're looking at it on a personal level where, you're making $500 a week and you still can't seem to find out or figure out why or how you're not making things work, how you're always having to go to mom or dad and say, hey, I need another $100 to make this work. Look at your numbers.
Yeah. Numbers don't lie. Check the scoreboard. Right. And I'm guilty of it even myself. Like, I do really well for myself. I'm in a very blessed and great position for my age and everything. Then I look at people like, Kevin over here, and I'm like, damn, I should be grinding a little harder. So like, you will always have something to compare to is what I'm saying, right? And a good comparison is a fish. You might be a big fish in a puddle, or you might be a little fish in a lake or an ocean, right? You will never par up.
Right.
You jump into different waters, you will never par up to certain individuals.
Right.
So don't try to, and I have a challenge with that, and I've gotten good with it, lately, like especially having a kid, it definitely helped me out to balance
Grounded
me.
you.
Where it's like, it's like, okay, like, okay, like I know I'm good, like I'm straight, like, okay. I ain't gonna be Jeff Bezos. I don't need to be Jeff Bezos.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
You wouldn't even want to be Jeff.
yeah, no. And I'm just getting like really elaborate there, but like, you will always have somebody that is outdoing you, right?
Yep,
and like,
exactly.
it is what it is. Like, if you're doing, and that's what I tell myself, like, is I am in an industry where the margins suck. Okay. They're shit, okay? I've managed to do really well for myself, okay? But I know I know what I'm doing with the money that I'm making is way different than most individuals would. I'm very, very conservative with what I'm doing. I lived in an 1,100 square foot house, which I don't want to sound like that's a shack, but it was a little house when I could have lived in $1 million house.
Right.
I could have afforded it.
Yeah.
Okay. But I stayed in an 1,100 square foot house.
Yep.
Okay. I drove, a 10-year-old vehicle.
Yeah.
And I could have had a Lamborghini.
Yep.
If I wanted right now, I could have a Lamborghini. Does that make any sense? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make sense. So I've lived within my means. I've made strategic decisions to propel myself forward, and I know that I will get the last laugh, not now, not in 5 years, not in 10 years, in 20 years or so, I will be thanking myself up and down. God bless it that I'm still here,
right?
That I made the decisions that I made when I made them.
That's also like another thing, even in construction, like for me, like, every time I've gotten a new truck, and even this new truck that I got, it's because the one that I had was ready to be handed down to my team. But I've never, like, I don't know if it happens in landscaping, but you got these guys that every single year they're upgrading trucks for no reason. My trucks last me 5, if not longer.
Yeah.
Until literally the truck that I have to hand it down, or for whatever reason,
it's a growth purpose.
Like, it's never like, oh, I just need a new truck just to get a new truck. Like, I've never been.
And don't get me wrong, and I think you'd be lying if you said it too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, every once in a while, you get an urge where it's like, man, I'd like to go out and get me a new ride. But like, then you think about it, and you're like, is that the most logical decision?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Like,
I'm not going to do that.
Like, people always ask me, why don't you have a boat? Why don't you need to get a? Like, for what? I don't even know how to fucking drive a boat or whatever. You know what I mean?
You get
like,
a captain for that.
but I don't have the space.
Yeah.
I don't. I don't know how to,
No,
it's a whole
but
like.
here's the thing though, man, is like eventually.
And I got friends with boats, so
there ain't nothing. If you know anything about a boat, the best thing is to know someone who owns a boat.
exactly. So I'm like, what
Straight
the hell
up.
do I need a boat for?
But like that's where I'm at. It's like, don't get me wrong, like I do love nice things. I enjoy nice things. I enjoy nice dinners. I enjoy good things, right?
Yeah.
That's why we work as hard as we do. But I know that if I sacrifice now,
Yep.
that later on, that I won't have to sweat anything, right? Like,
Yeah.
I could spend $5,000 on a great dream trip right now, or I know that every 5 years that $5,000 will double.
Mm-hmm.
So, in 5 years, that 5 is 10, and then 20, 40, 80, that's 160 in 25 years. That $5,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I could take a hell of a freaking trip for $160.
Yeah.
Granted inflation, but like, I could probably charter a yacht at that point, right? Like, so like, it's just kicking the can down the road. It's knowing that whatever sacrifices are made today will be so much more worth it further on down the line. And it sucks, dude. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and try to say that like it's an easy thing to want to hold back what you can obtain today for what you can get tomorrow. Like that is a very, very, very challenging thing to do. But, I've seen it just unfold in the last 10 or 15 years where I know like if I can hold off, like it will certainly be worth it at that point.
Yeah, I'm weird. I'm like, why would I have a boat? I can have a podcast studio.
Hey, I feel it.
Last question before we wrap up this episode.
Yeah.
If someone's watching this right now and they've never invested $1, what's the first simple step they should take?
All right, I'm going to go multiple steps really quick. Yep. All right, let's say you're a W-2 employee.
Yep.
So you're a salaried employee. If your company offers a 401k or whatever investment platform, and they offer a match, right? So if they have a 401k and they'll match up to 5%, let's say, you are a complete idiot if you do not do the max. Because then you're getting that match, okay? If you then have additional funds past that to invest, you need to do a Roth IRA. That's going to be a max contribution of this year, I think $7,500. You can't put anything more in. Max that out. If you max that out, then you keep adding on to your 401k. Let's backtrack now and say that you're like a 1099 employee or a W-2 employee that doesn't have a company that offers those kind of platforms. At that point, step one's Roth IRA. Max out your Roth IRA. If you were able to then contribute past that, open up some sort of individual brokerage account, like buying the S&P 500, with a financial advisor, if need be. But that is the path to success. It is literally that simple. If you want to become a multimillionaire, start as early as possible. If you have or if you have a 401k with a match, go up to the max, let them match it, then max out your Roth if you can. And if it's the other way around where you don't have those platforms, Roth first, individual brokerage next, you'll be a millionaire.
So if I'm on YouTube or Facebook and I see an ad that says become a millionaire in 2 years, invest here, should I invest there? Get rich quick.
Yeah. I'll tell you this right now, and this is so true. I mean, I've had it happen to me personally, and I've been told it and still let it happen to me. If it sounds too good to be true, it's too good to be true. Period. And cool, if somebody did bank out like that and got so fortunate, to have been able to double their money or become a millionaire, great. Don't think that, not to say that it can't happen to you. I mean, you might strike gold. Everyone strikes gold every once in a while, but do not bank, your life savings and your investments on trying to become,
a millionaire in 8 months.
Overnight, dude. Yeah. It's slow. It's slow. It's boring.
What about buying courses?
I think if it's personal development courses, it's not a bad idea,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to build you as a human and as a character. I think that there's certainly, you know, an ROI to be seen on that. Investment courses and like real estate courses and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, to each teach their own. But I mean, we're in a day and age right now where you can ultimately go online and get any information that you need by the touch, you know, of your fingers. So like, do we need to pay for that?
Right.
I don't necessarily think so. You know,
Yeah.
if you're willing to put in the time and put in the research, I think you can get a better ROI than going through a course. But like personal development courses and stuff like that, I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing.
And don't be afraid to say it. I mean, personal development, cool. Get rich quick or whatever, bullshit.
Yeah,
to me,
I mean,
my
it's a
opinion.
pyramid scheme most times, more times than not.
It's like when they tell you, you know, there's this big money convention. Unless it's like certain speakers
yeah,
that you know are like have integrity and they're not gonna be on no bullshit.
yeah,
Most of the time, I'm like,
yeah.
I've never went to like a money convention or nothing like that.
Yeah,
but
I haven't
I know,
done those. I've done a personal like a life coach, like Tony Robbins. I don't know if you're familiar with Tony
fuck yeah,
Robbins.
he's
Tony
fucking-
Robbins
he's a badass.
is legit.
I've always wanted to go.
Go.
Yeah.
Go. It's real.
You were
I mean,
ready to
like,
go.
like
You were ready to run through a brick wall.
I ran across coals barefoot and didn't burn. That's a whole nother story. But like,
Wait, what?
hey, no, for real.
At Tony Robbins?
Tony Robbins, barefoot.
Wait, were you
cross-
like VIP? Did you get like a
No,
VIP ticket?
everyone at the that was willing to do it. You sign a waiver, and
No way.
Yep, and you get
Why?
so in your head.
Wait, no, we gotta know. You gotta
what?
tell
Sign a waiver.
You gotta tell
well,
the
you gotta
story.
sign a waiver because
No,
you're
no, I'm
walking
saying
across-
why are you running across coals? Like,
it's about how powerful your mind is. That your mind can overcome pain
true.
that you can't
true.
even grasp.
Yep.
So like, tell me how. And this was not a hoax. Like, you can see the videos and stuff, and I'm not sitting here trying to promote Tony Robbins. I'm just speaking facts. Like, straight up 3-day convention of like 10-hour days, like just life coach shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, we probably about a 30-foot
Run.
run of straight ember coals, real coals,
Really. Barefoot.
barefoot, not run.
When was this?
I probably did that in like 2013 or 14.
Where was he? Where was?
That was in Fort Lauderdale, but he goes into a lot of places.
That's wild.
yeah.
I've always
And-
wanted to go to him.
Dude,
I've never went.
it makes you come out of there feeling like you could like wrestle a tiger. Yeah. No, I mean, in all seriousness, like, you are capable of things that that's the whole point of it, right?
Yeah.
It's not a point of like saying like I walked across coals. You know, I didn't have any burns or nothing. Like, this isn't bullshit either. You can do your research on it. But it's about the state of mind. If you're able to get in the right state of mind, you can do literally anything.
Yeah.
You know, you hear these stories about like individuals who get in life or death situations, like full adrenaline pumping, and like lift cars and shit. Like, it's the same thing. Like, it's all up here. So
Yeah.
if you can believe it, you know, you can achieve it. And like, that's where I'm at, man. Like, I've always known I was gonna make it. I didn't know how I was gonna make it. I didn't think it was gonna be necessarily the path that I took to make it. But like, I haven't doubted myself.
And that all, you know, mindset mentality ties into everything we've been talking about money. Like, my mom, you know, I grew up with a single mom, and she would always say, we're not poor, we're just in a temporary situation of brokenness. Basically. You know, she would never say we're poor because she's like, mentally we're rich.
Yeah.
You know, and
Poor is a permanent state of mind.
exactly. And like, but also if you think about it, kind of, you know, just talking about mindset a little bit, like, if you wake up in the morning, you're like, like, I'm tired, like, I'm whatever, that's how you're going to feel all day. But if you wake up and you're like, all right, I'm ready to go, I'm going to sell something today, I'm going to whatever,
Yeah.
Your body
You're
reacts,
manifesting it.
and your body like reacts different to it.
Yep.
Like I was talking to somebody the other day, because I'm going to the gym with some of the guys, and I swear I'm like, man, like I was like, my legs hurt. I was like, do your legs hurt? He's like, no. And 5 minutes later, as soon as you said leg hurting, my leg started hurting. And that's literally
the mind is like incredible. And that was what was really cool about that experience, is it truly shows you how strong your mind is. Like manifesting stuff is no joke. I mean, like I've bought buildings that I manifested that I was going to own, like legit, without any freaking like idea that anything was going to, like, I had no reason to think that I was going to own it.
Right.
Except for I was like, I'm going to own that. And I still got some right now that I'm like, you know, man, I manifest, and I know like I will own them. And I've told the owners of those buildings, like, I will own your building. Like, it's manifesting it, right?
Exactly,
You're thinking it into fruition, you know? So like,
speaking it.
Yeah. And if you think that you're not going to go anywhere, then you're not going to go anywhere, you know, because you've already set that standard.
Right.
If you think you're going to go places or get opportunities, you know, this, that, and the other thing, you like, manifestation is like a wild thing.
Maybe that's what the next episode needs to be about.
Manifestation.
Yeah, I believe so much in that shit.
Dude, it's crazy. It is real. I could give many examples of it, but like, you know, you knew, you know, at a certain age, you knew that you were gonna break out and become, you know, something.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
I felt the same way too.
And I'm a firm believer of like, you have to become mentally and physically who you want to be before you get there.
Yeah.
And that's not, you know, because you could say, okay, well, then I need to get a nice truck or a nice house. We're talking about like personally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
Like I'm always like, okay, if I'm gonna be like a fucking entrepreneur, then I'm gonna act, dress, and be a fucking entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is podcasting. I'm going to be a podcaster. You know what I'm saying? So, but you're manifesting, but you're also like, I don't know what the word would be, but you're also like putting yourself mentally there.
Yeah. Yeah. You believe it. And if you don't believe it, then, you know, nobody can, right? I mean, you are ultimately the captain of your boat, you know, so to speak. So, I mean, I think both of us can say that, you know, we've done well for ourselves, but we're probably just getting started, right?
Oh, yeah.
We have much bigger visions and anticipation of where things are going to go, and we truly believe it, and we're not focused on outside noise, you know, of what, you know, like you're going through the experience right now of doing the podcast, you know? There's probably outside noise of like, what the fuck's
this dude doing,
man? Like, wasting your time, bro. Like this, that, and the other thing. But like, you know it. You have your vision. You know, you're going towards something, and you know that's what's most important. If you're not behind it,
right,
then you got no business messing with it.
And honestly, I enjoy it.
It's
honestly,
great.
Like, it's fun. It's fun.
I love it, man. I love it, and I love being a part of it. And I do really appreciate you. You know, letting me come back again, and
this is gonna be
hey, if you
every
make
couple
me,
of weeks.
If you
I'm
make
telling
me a
you,
regular guest,
the next one, the last time we before we finished, we said we need to talk about money.
Yeah.
Next one, mindset, manifestation.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a very powerful thing for sure.
And you know, one thing like I think that me and you understand, right? We're early 30s. I just turned 32. You're 31.
Yep.
We understand that we have time on our hands, right?
It's working for us right now, not against us.
Exactly. And I know this because, you know, I'm like, I most of the people that I talk to and whatnot, you know, they're 50 plus and they started out when they were 40, you know, or 35.
Yeah.
And they get super impressed by the fact that, you know, I'm just now 32 or whatever. And, but that's the beauty about timing is if you understand where you're at in time, kind of like going back to what you said, if you're 20 years old,
You got nothing but
understanding
time.
that time is your best friend.
Yep.
And that's the thing about time. It could be time. It could be your best friend. It could be your enemy. It helps you forget things. Time is fucking relentless.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? Whichever way you think about it.
Yeah, and that is an important thing, and like that's something I want people to understand too. We talked a lot about timing with investment. Like, don't feel like, oh, like shit, I'm 30 something or I'm 40 something or I'm 50 something. It's too late. You know what I mean? Like, it's never too late, but like just start making, movements and actions towards it now. Like that is everything. I mean, you and I were very blessed. We're, younger entrepreneurs who have put ourselves in pretty decent positions, I would say. So we're very blessed, and we know that, we got time working for us, but like also we know that there's been very successful stories that have come out of people that are in their 50s, 60s, 70s, right? So like, it's never too late, and you don't want to, waste your time on this earth, by thinking that you're already too far behind.
Exactly.
Just get action going is certainly the most important thing.
And I would say, to end this conversation about money, I think it's not about making money for yourself. It's really about making money for your legacy, making money for your kids, for your family, to leave for, if you don't have kids, for your parents, but just making a difference. And at the end of the day, as unfortunate as it is, money makes a difference.
It does. And I want to just elaborate quickly on that, as I completely agree with it, and like a lot of people get caught up, like, oh, all you care about is money, 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 money. No, like, I recognize that money is a tool, okay? And it's an opportunity to leave impact. Right. Impact on your family, impact on your friends, impact on your community, okay? So, that's how I view it, and I think that it's very important that people understand that, is it's a tool, right? Anything that you want to do, unfortunately, in today's world costs money. If you want a heart transplant to stay alive, it's going to cost money. Yeah. If you want to go on vacation, it's going to cost money, so on and so forth. So, no, it is not all about money, but it's understanding that if you don't let money control you, see, that's where people are mistaken, is they think that, I let money control me. No, I'm controlling the money.
Exactly.
And if you get that power above it and understand how it works and how to understand how to use it to your benefit, you will never be a victim of chasing the dollar. And that's it for me.
And money's becoming more and more of a, what was it they were saying in COVID? Only certain businesses, what was the word they were using?
Like to do away with it?
No. Like only certain businesses could stay open.
Yeah.
You know what word I'm talking about? Where it's like all the healthcare workers.
Yeah, not an emergency business, but
necessity.
Basically.
But money, you look at this world overall, and every year, every month, it looks like now it's becoming more and more of a gap between, whether you have it and you control it, or you don't have it and it controls you. 100%. And you got to get on that.
It's not going to close either.
Exactly.
Because
it's only getting farther.
Well, we're talking about compounding, right? So the rich are always going to get richer because they're using money.
No matter who's
them.
in office.
Yeah. It's not a political
No matter who's
thing.
in office, no matter what the hell's going on. Yeah.
It's not a political thing. It's not an economical cycle thing. I don't care what you say. It is that you either understand how it works or it works you. And unfortunately, like I said, we have a lot of individuals who don't understand how it works. Right. And if they can't get out ahead of it, they will always be chasing it. Those are the ones that are actually chasing the money.
Exactly.
That is the sad part there. We're talking about a whole other end of the spectrum where, it looks like we're the ones that are chasing that. Right. No, we just got it working. Okay. Yeah. So we're involved with it. Whereas the other end of the spectrum, they're like, you don't need money. All you need is family and happiness. And that is true.
Mm-hmm.
But they're always going to be a victim and a slave
Right,
to
exactly.
the lender and to the dollar.
And to anybody listening, Devon figured it out on his own. I figured it out on my own. And there's going to be different routes, but at the end of the day, it's all about figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And we're perfect examples of, I never had a money mentor, and I'm assuming you, it seems like
not
you really figured it.
legitimate. No.
So, if we can figure it out, you guys can figure it out too.
Yeah. And if anyone ever wants to reach out and has questions or wants guidance, I can't speak for you, but I'd, certainly reach out to me and I'd love to help.
Don't reach out to me. I'm just going to say, I don't know, fucking invest it.
SP 500, baby.
But, thank you very much. This is Nothing Fancy. Go like, share, and subscribe. And Devon, next one will be manifestation.
Pleasure as always.
Yes, sir.